It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Do you love the Tabernacle Choir? This year, the choir's music is everywhere you are. Listen to your favorite choir songs and music and the spoken word anytime you want on Alexa by simply enabling the skill.
Alexa, play music in the spoken word.
Now playing music in the spoken word.
You can also download the Tabernacle Choir app, subscribe to the choir on YouTube, listen on Spotify, and have access to all their wonderful music. Happy listening.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. The Utah Mammoth win again. They beat the Winnipeg Jets 5-3. They are going to be the first wild card. Kings only picked up 1 point with an overtime loss in Seattle. So the Mammoth are up by 2. They've got the tiebreaker with the most regulation wins. So they're all set. We'll get to the best of post-game show coming up. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about your Utah Jazz and what will happen with the Jazz big men. Kevin Love, Jusuf, Nurkic, free agents. Kevin Love meeting with the media. Here are his comments. Listen in.
You talked about kind of the same things that he said before about coming here and kind of being surprised by how much that you enjoyed not just like Utah, but like the Jazz, the organization, more specifically. Did that kind of last throughout the season? And then how much does that play into what might happen after this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nurk and I have spoken about it at length, just how much we've enjoyed our time here. I think Nurk, myself, we're in a unique situation. Me specifically, just coming into my 18th year, not knowing what to expect, coming from a place with the Heat and with that organization where, quite honestly, I thought I'd end my career. And, you know, this is the NBA. It's a business, right? And sometimes your life and certain things in it can get uprooted, even in your worst years, personally. And I came here not knowing what to expect, but whether it was Austin, whether it was Will, whether it was Jay-Z, whether it was Ryan, you know, not unlike our 19-year-old, they said, let's just get him here and we'll let everything fall where it should. And I was very surprised and welcomed with open arms by everyone. You know, I've been on record saying I've had a truly great experience here, and that has remained throughout the course of this year, even with you know, the circumstances we find ourselves in, and you know, trying to reload for next year and for the future. But from Ryan all the way down to, you know, our equipment managers, the people that clean the building, our security that welcomes us into the arena, our bus drivers, the people that work at the airport, like whoever it is, they've been incredible. And I think Nurk and I have been we've been very vocal about it. Like, we would be back here in an instant, just trying to, you know, be great vets and help guys like Ace, again, who's 19, guys in their, you know, first contracts, guys kind of in the middle of their career, all the way through those who are ready to turn their page and really make an impact in the league. So, you know, that's a long-winded way of saying I don't know what the future holds for me, but I would hope that, you know, whether it be the front office or ownership or the coaching staff and all the powers that be would look at me as a vet that they would think to bring in. I know I have a lot to give, even if that's not planned. And I know each and every teammate there would you know, say the same. And I can leave here knowing that I poured everything into, you know, each one of these guys, just trying to help them personally and professionally.
Is there anything new that you learned at this point in your career, taking on the role that you did here, specifically with the Jazz? Anything new about yourself?
I just think more than anything, just within your career, you know, different years take different shapes just when you think you've seen it all, for better or for worse, good and bad. And there was a lot of good this year. Things just kind of shifted, and I was able to help people. And I always look at, myself at 19 years old, getting drafted, having played my first game at 20, what I was able to, or what I needed and what I didn't get at that time, both on and off the floor. I think I certainly try my best and am very intentional in providing what people need and giving them an olive branch to give them a safe space to get better as a player and as a person. So I know that within this organization, we don't like to build players, but we like to build great people as well. And I think whether I'm on the roster or not next year, or whether I'm looked at as somebody who might be a value add as a great vet, because I think I'm a true believer that vets matter, that I will still be close with and have impact on these guys' lives in one way or another.
How much do you think credibility matters when it comes to the vets on the team?
Am I not credible?
No,
I'm kidding.
I'm paying you the compliment.
I'm kidding. No, I definitely think it matters. And I think I just think there's a built-in trust factor. It may not look like it, but actually we would probably know, having the conversations, you would know better than most that, Keontae actually and I probably have more similarities than some would think on the surface. He took a big step this year in his third season. In my third season, I was most improved and, was an all-star for the first time. And, if not for, a few hiccups that weren't his fault necessarily, Keontae would have been right there as well. And, there were certain things that followed him that don't need to be spoken about because he's turned that page, that I certainly had as well. And he's had a lot of growth, and he's been extremely fun to be around and be a locker mate with. So Keontae is a great example. We all know P5. We all know Ace. Everybody's had their Ace moments throughout the course of the year, and he's somebody that, he's fucking asking me about investments now. I'm like, Ace, you're hilarious. But no, I think it's that, as well as like something as small as being his locker mate here at the facility, like keeping up his locker and being a human being, all the way to just chasing the game and letting everything else chase you back. And when things aren't adding up, start subtracting. There's little things here and there that he's continued to get better at, and he's made huge strides this year, which has been amazing to see. But then Lowry, he's like my little big brother. I know that he looks at me the same. He keeps asking me, are you coming back? Are you coming back? I'm like, Lowry, you say something. It's not on me. They're going to look at me like this is this old guy. What are you talking about? But there's tons of examples. Like I could go with Cody or Zay or Bryce or, Flip. Flip and I have had many conversations about our life and families and the complexities of that. And, when Flip has gotten minutes, you can see his talent out there on the floor. To Walker with his shoulder, I also had the same shoulder injury, and I've had a lot of conversations with him, about that and how he'll bounce back and, ideally getting the contract situation out of the way. Like all that stuff matters. Again, I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, I've had a lot of success, but I've also had a ton of failure. So I think that there's a lot to be learned in all of that, and maybe even more so in the latter.
There's Kevin Love meeting with the media as the season ends. Now here's Jusuf Nurkic.
Well, Nurk, your time here with the Jazz, is there something new you discovered about your game at all at this point in your career?
I guess how nice can be when everything fell in place. From top to the bottom, I guess, with the teammates and coaches and office, and I felt super, I guess, nice. That's kind of a new thing, I guess. I guess as a pro and when you're in the league for a little bit, kind of forget how, I guess you lose a sense of humanity about it and try to be a pro and do as situation it is. But then when you kind of settle down and see the beauty, the work and everything, kind of the job, enjoy it, it's pretty special though.
Isn't sports supposed to be fun?
That's true, but trust me, it's not all the time though. Like I said, situation sometimes we choose and sometimes we not. People burn bridges and not build them. Maybe it's not all our case scenario that we want, but as the more you figure out how to have fun and the more people around you and staff and the front office want to succeed, I guess, it's the best, I guess, performance that you can have when you have fun. And as long as you're searching for that, it can be tricky. But I guess when you find that, it's pretty easy flow for the game and how you feel and how you perform. But you're right. That's a goal, kind of to have the fun out there, though.
I mean, I want to figure out kind of maybe your motivation as you move forward after this season, because we've talked a lot prior to this about how much you've enjoyed your time here and that you'd be fine coming back. But like, where kind of on the priority list is that? Like the enjoyment of your surroundings, money, a starting spot? Like, what is it that you want for next season?
I mean, it's a good question, but I think it's kind of too early. To the point, it'll be such easy to come back, and I want to come back. To your question, love everything about the state and the team. It was one of those things that you didn't have expectations and end up like a beautiful thing. Like it's almost after the rain, like you see the sun. It's kind of the closest I can explain. But also it's like free agency is it's a tricky thing and you want to be part of it. So I can't really speak too much about it. We'll see how my agent handled that. Like kind of leave him and team to figure out that spot. And I want to be back. That's kind of I guess the main goal. But like you can't really promise anything these days from the team or the players, as you know. So.
Your 3 back-to-back triple-doubles, that was the first time in Jazz history for a player to have consecutive triple-doubles. What did that stretch mean to you?
I mean, to the point of the fun, I feel like that was the stretch of the funnest. Like the coach, is really someone who the big reason, I guess, about everything. I guess the biggest reason, because I know I was capable of. But he kind of gave me the green light. I think that the funniest or the best part about this season for me is not like I'm not used, because where I'm from, the coaches all the time yell, right, curse and do some crazy stuff. This might be after the 12th season in NBA only. Like the whole year, the coach was not even single bad word to me in any type of way or forms. And that's probably the kind of memorized my whole season. Like, but it's not like crazy to me. But like, the winning is probably the most important thing, and that's kind of what we are all excited here. So for next year.
How much did you know Will or know about Will before you got here?
I mean, from side, I know that he's a young coach, right? Hear great things about it. Have a few conversations over the phone when the trade happened. Didn't have too much, or didn't give too much into it. Like I said, no expectation. A lot of, the experience I had in my previous years, it was sweet and sour, so you just don't know which direction you might end up and what position you might be in. But relationship from day one to this day kind of obviously got better, but it was the same about approach. Like he was really good communicator. He really means what he's saying, which is hard. Like it's a business, right? And we've been together with the coffee shops and game days, and it kind of, special that you have a guy who's really, not just for me, I feel like for all of us here, care deep enough, but also like he understands that he have a young guy that's gonna make mistakes like we all do. He's kind of patient with that, which is not a lot of coaches want to deal with that. Like in my experience, at least, they will just be moving on to the players, and keep finding that whatever they want. But he kind of want to use all the players to see what they can bring, though.
There's Jusuf Nurkic meeting with the media as the season ends. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the Utah Mammoth pick up a big win on the way to the playoffs. That's next. Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The Utah Mammoth win at home. They beat the Winnipeg Jets 5-3. Let's get to the best of the postgame show.
DJ and PK, the Utah Mammoth beat the Winnipeg Jets 5-3 at the Delta Center on Tuesday, and they also clinched that first wildcard spot in the Western Conference as well, so they will await the Pacific Division champion. We could know the answer as early as tonight. If Vegas gets at least a standings point against Seattle, they'll play at 8 p.m. at T-Mobile Arena. If they don't beat Seattle, Utah awaits to see what happens in Edmonton tomorrow with Calgary, and Edmonton could take the Pacific Division there with a victory and a tiebreaker over Vegas. But if Vegas wins tonight, it's all said and done. Utah will see the Golden Knights in the first round of the playoffs. So that is the situation there. Mammoth returning home and getting things rolling again. Logan Cooley, 8:05 into the first, his 24th of the year.
Here's a stretch feed. Cooley's in the clear. Backhander scores! Logan Cooley dazzles the Delta Center. After the Hail Mary connects, and Cooley gets his 24th of the year. 12 to go in the first period, and the Mammoth are on the board first.
And then that Utah power play got back to work, and Nick Schmaltz would get his 32nd.
Sergachev scanning. Keller at the right circle. There's Sergachev. Keller steps into one. Hit a body in front. That was Cooley battling for positioning at the net mouth. Keller. Sergachev. Gunther thought about it. Back to Sergachev, a drive. Rebound, they score! Power play goal for Nick Schmaltz and the Mammoth. And Utah leads 2-0. 5 minutes into period 2, and Nick Schmaltz has his 10th power play goal on the year to lead the team.
Jets counter with a power play goal. It was 2-1 going to the third, and Utah's power play got right back to work. Nick Schmaltz is 33rd.
Mammoth set up. Gunther tees up a one-timer and fired it high. Keller on the far side, in tight. Cooley feathering one back to Gunther on the near side. Schmaltz has to bump it back out. Keller side of the net. Schmaltz fires and scores! And Nick Schmaltz has 2 tonight. The Mammoth extend their lead, and it's another power play goal.
And then 26 seconds later, J.J. Peterka got his 25th.
It's Kerfoot jetting to center and then shifting gears into the offensive zone. Sandberg ridden up against the glass by number 15. Peterka in front, dangles and scores! Hey, J.J. What a goal from number 77, J.J. Peterka. And the Mammoth are feeling it at the Delta Center.
But 13 seconds after that, the Mammoth took a penalty and went shorthanded. And before you knew it, it was a 4-3 game with 2 goals and a $147 from Winnipeg before Alexander Kerfoot scored into an empty net, and the Mammoth take it by a count of 5-3.
Huge dog pile back behind Karel Vejmelka. It pops in front. Kerfoot at the empty net. Bingo! 5-3. Apply the coup de grace. 23 seconds left in the third. Alexander Kerfoot rewarded with the empty net goal. He's been fantastic tonight. It's goal number 7 on the year for Utah's Swiss Army knife.
So offense fueled by the power play, back and rolling for Utah. They've now scored 4 goals or more in 7 of their last 9 and in 10 of the last 14. The power play is now 14 for the last 35 over the last 10 games. That is a 40% clip. So the Mammoth got goals. Got some big saves from Karel Vejmelka, his 38th win of the year. Veggie also ranking first in the NHL in minutes and third in saves. So a victory in the return home. Mammoth clinched that first wildcard spot. 1 game left in the regular season. It will be Thursday night at 5:30 against the St. Louis Blues. Utah continues to cook offensively, led by Nick Schmaltz, who picks up another one. 7 goals in his last 10 games. We heard from him after the game.
Obviously, we spoke on the bench, but how does the maturity in this group showcase in a game like that, especially late?
Yeah, we had a little adversity there. They made a push, but we stuck with it. And big goal by JJ kind of gave us that extra cushion we needed. And we hung and we fought to the end. And guys made some big blocks, and Veggie made some big saves at the end.
When it comes to the quick passing, the quick movement that you saw, especially in the first and second periods, what led to that?
I think we just talked about it. We're a better team when we move the puck quick and use our speed and catch them off guard a little bit. When we try to drag it back and teams get set, and it's hard to beat all 5 guys. So when we can move the puck up quick, transition, and use our speed, we're pretty difficult to play against.
What about Veggie making some very timely saves, especially in the first period?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, he's been good for us all year. You're going to need those saves this time of year. It's big momentum shifters for either team, and he did a great job for us.
You guys clinched wildcard 1 today. Does that were you guys thinking about that at all? Does it matter to you at all?
I think we were just trying to play as best we could these last 2 games. We had 2 losses in a row, so we wanted to bounce back at home and put ourselves in the best position we can.
How have you seen the group collectively step up in these moments? Like, last week when you clinched a playoff spot, and now tonight clinching the top wildcard.
Yeah, I think, we talked about we just don't want to be limping into the playoffs. We want to be rolling, and we want to be everyone feeling confident and hit the ground running right from game 1. So we're trying to build as much as we can before we got 1 more game to do that, and we got to be ready for Thursday and then just build into the postseason.
Power play goals tonight. What's going right with the power play?
I think we're just moving the puck good, and we're catching. When we move the puck, it's tough to kill. I think when we hold on to it and dust it off a little bit, teams get set, and it's they pack it in tight, and there's not much there. But when we shoot it, recover, make quick plays, we're pretty dangerous.
You look at the stats. It looks like that was a sudden change. Like one game you guys weren't scoring, and the next game you're scoring every single time. What changed? Like, was there a moment where you guys sat down and figured it out?
I don't think so. I think we got confidence. We've had the similar power play unit for quite a while now, so we know where each other are. We have confidence in every guy in the unit, and things weren't just going in. I don't think we were shooting enough pucks, and we were a little too perimeter. So I don't know what changed, but it's definitely a good time to get it going.
Is that just baseball?
Yeah, it's ball, baby.
Also heard from J.J. Peterka, who finished off his 25th of the season for Utah in that third period. That would end up being the game-winning goal for Utah to make it 4-1 as Winnipeg finished with 3. Here is John Jason Peterka, who we heard from post-game.
We've talked a lot about playoffs, and obviously you guys know what to expect going into this next stretch of the season, but how does pace and speed separate you from other teams you play in this league?
I think you've seen it today, the way we can play when we all play with speed. I think it's like day and night to the other games we played before, so I think just build on that.
Obviously, a little bit of adversity in that last period. How has this group grown in terms of maturity in handling some of those closer games?
I mean, Veggie had a hell of a period there, saving us more and more. I think just kind of buckling down at the end of the night. Trying to keep him to the outside and play a more mature game.
Part of that speed is quick puck decisions. What have you guys worked on to make sure that you're having those quick decisions and the right decisions?
Just trying to play north every time. I think seeing it on the goal from Cools, I think best example. You don't hold it back there, just move it up. And yeah, I think no team can handle us if we play with that pace.
Personally, how excited are you to be on the verge of your first experience in the postseason?
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. I'm super pumped. Even talking to fans here, they're also excited to bring the playoffs here. So yeah, I can't wait for it to begin.
How dangerous do you feel like this team can be?
I think a little bit of an underdog, especially when we play the way we play today. Just kind of like trying to drag the good teams down, the big ones.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And head coach Andre Turney liking the response from his Utah team. Had a little bit of a bumpy weekend, falling in Calgary Sunday and Carolina on Saturday. Just their only 2 losses, though, in the last 8 games. Mammoth winning 6 of 8. They'll look to make it 7-9 going into the playoffs. Heard from Bear post-game as well.
Really happy about the way we play. When we talk about our identity, we talk about how we wanted to play. And we talk about it this morning, the speed we played, the battle we had, the net front presence, the tempo we had. Really happy about that. Obviously, third period we made it tougher than we should have. But it will be good learning from us. And all our guys are pros. We know that. So it's not like we learned something tonight. We knew that. So it's just that happened. Glad it happened, though.
Can you expand on the importance of learning how to win in those close games and battle adversity in the third period, especially going into tight playoff games?
Yeah, there's 2 parts of it. It's kind of when it was 4-1, like I said, we made it tougher than we should have or could have. But when push come to shove and that was tight, we played solid. We didn't give much. We were stingy. Even when they had a shift around 4 minutes when they had the puck in our zone a lot, but nothing around that. The guys were rock solid.
And looking at some of the offensive numbers, I mean, you guys dominated for most of the game. Obviously, that stretch at the end, not as much. But how does stacking that success or that execution offensively then allow you to have and weather that storm of the adversity in the third?
Yeah, I think there's a lot we can take from that game, and what the guys wanted to do today, the way they wanted to play, and the result of, in terms of numbers, like you said, of that effort is really good. So it's a feel good when you put the effort, you have a mindset how you want to play, and it works. I think that helped a lot.
I'm just curious if there's any update on Sean Durzee's situation.
No, there's no update for now.
It seemed like Mikhail Sergachev was really looking for his shot tonight. How big of a difference does it make when not only Sergachev's involved offensively, but the defense as well?
It was rock solid. I think the big guy was. We needed that kind of a performance, and he delivered. He was really, really good. We had a lot of flyer work good tonight, but I think Sergei stood out for me. It was a beast.
How impactful was that Tanev line? It seemed like every time I looked up, they were hitting somebody or doing something.
Exactly, and that's why I was happy they were on the ice at the end with Kerfy. But still, I think they earned it. They had possession, and they played it right away. They often say to them, you get it out, you get it in, you get it to the net, and you get on the body. And that's exactly what they did. Thanks, everyone.
So 8 Utah skaters score in the game, 2 players with multiple points. Nick Schmaltz with his 20th multiple point game of the year and his 7th game of the year of at least 2 goals. Logan Cooley, his 9th game of the year with at least 2 points. We're talking all about it on Mammoth Daily, wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Utah Mammoth YouTube page, Mammoth Plus at SEG Plus. Mike Folta and I with you every day talking Mammoth, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll have Mike's Morning After. Matt McConnell, Nick Olchek will join us from the TV side, and we'll look back at Painting the Ice from Tuesday night at the Delta Center before we greet you again coming up Thursday. It's going to be 4:30 with Hockey Night in Utah, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, with the game nationally televised on ESPN. The puck will drop at 5:30. Fan Appreciation Night and season finale against the St. Louis Blues. Playoff schedule, when we get it, could be possible tonight if Vegas beats the Seattle Kraken, but playoff schedule is yours just as soon as we have it. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll talk to you on Mammoth Daily and Thursday for Hockey Night in Utah.
There is the best of the post-game show. When we come back, Tim LaComb is talking Jazz basketball. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are joined by Tim LaComb from the Jazz pre-half and post-game shows. Tim, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Beautiful morning.
It is a beautiful morning.
It's a beautiful morning.
See, I'm setting him up all the way through.
There it is. Tim, we have a question for you. It's up on our Facebook page. Many people are answering this after the clean out the lockers, the media availabilities and all that. A lot of people talking about how much they loved having Kevin Love and Jusuf Nurkic on the team. Of course, sentimentality will get you beat every time, so you got to be careful with that when you're building the roster, and the Angels certainly will. We've seen them make really big decisions in the NBA that didn't have any sentimentality at all. So I guess the question is, do you see a role for Kevin Love or Jusuf Nurkic next year? And Nurkic at 11 points, 10 boards, 5 assists, I think I see bigger roles and more money for him around the league. I don't know how much more money or how much bigger role or how good the team will be. So it might make sense for him to stay put. But do you think the pieces of the puzzle really fit together, or is this just sentimentality talking?
Well, I think we're way too early to tell. I think what you said, Kevin Love, he did way more for this organization, basically within the walls of that locker room. His vibe was so good for this team, and particularly for Keontae. I stuck Keontae right next to him in the locker, and I think there was wisdom there. And the other night, the entire team got a technical for celebrating. Those guys on the bench. And so I think Kevin Love's time here, if it is up, that he served a big time purpose that, probably a lot of things will be forgotten. And, he was just vital in a year where everything kind of had to start to galvanize. And there were some, the Jazz got popped early with the Walker Kessler situation. And so it made Kevin and Nurk way more. When I was first at Media Day, the first day, I'm looking around going, how is this going to work? Who's going to play? Who's actually going to play out of these big guys? And Nurk ended up having a great season and kind of resurrected the thought of himself around the league. His still big question mark still is lateral and his ability to guard pick and roll more than just in a drop situation. And so I think the draft is going to determine, each step along the way is going to determine what the roster looks like by what they're able to acquire. But I do think in terms of those two guys, it was a positive experience all the way around. And I'm with you. I think Nurk will demand some attention around the league. And Kevin Love's situation as his age and everything, you just don't know. So I think on both those guys, too early to tell. But I will say they were both really, really, really positive acquisitions for a lot of different reasons.
Well, can they literally afford, competitive-wise and also salary-wise, to have Kevin Love be suited up in an advisory role?
Probably not. That's where you find ways to incorporate guys, as it goes on. But I think at his age again, these were all, a lot of these guys were going to be fillers on years where they were trying to get everything done. And we all know now the runway's clear. There's nothing on it, and we can go. And there's no better feeling when you're at the airport and that thing finally hits the gas and you're like, okay, I can start my trip now. They're not going to keep me on this runway. And so you get up in the air, and that's what the Jazz are going to do next year. They're going to fly.
Nice. Fly, Eagles, fly.
See, I'm just trying to think of things I could say to get you to sing. So stay tuned.
Are you trying to get Sinatra come fly with me? Sinatra was big in
No, that's Sammy Hagar. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Okay.
Where Eagles fly.
Yeah.
We got another question up here. Why are so many BYU players entering the transfer portal? And we've got a lot of answers, but one of them, Jesse, clean house, start fresh. Is that the bottom line?
I would say the reason that everybody is in the portal is because it's 2026. Look around, right? Like all of college basketball is in the portal waiting for a call. We've created quite a system there. And, BYU definitely, the one thing you do have the ability to do on a yearly basis is, if it doesn't work out and it doesn't as a team, you don't want a guy back, you can send them, and then there's also the opportunity for guys to go try to find something else. But whatever the hell this is, it's not conducive to team. And that's where this whole thing, was supposed to start, was with teams. So, this was like individual one-on-one basketball, it'd be no big deal. But this is exhausting on the staffs. It's exhausting on the boosters. Like, this particular iteration of what we're doing is not sustainable, as you know. I mean, there's already reports of donor fatigue. Like, I got to write another check for how much, for how long? For 8 months, So, yeah, man, I think guys will learn something every year. I think KY and his guys down there are learning something every year. I really like what I've heard so far about the guys they're getting. But it's, what do they have, like 6 rostered guys for next year now or something, which is a little bit scary. And so it is a new world. But the reason, long-winded answer, it's the old adage, why'd you go in the transfer portal? Because everybody else was doing it.
What do you know of Colin Chandler? What do you expect of him?
I love that kid, watching him play in high school. I missed the opportunity. He was right on the front end of his recruitment when we stepped sideways. And so really kind of watched it more. I broadcasted the state championship game, saw him play a lot in AAU in the summer times here and there. I think more than anything, the most important thing is at one point he was the best player in Utah. And I think that is something every single year that BYU's got to get. I mean, they've got to get this backbone kid. The one strength BYU can have through all this craziness is while everybody turns over their roster right now, like BYU's turning it over, you put guys in place, and they've recruited 2 guys this year, two Temp U guys, Dean Ruckert and Will Openshaw, and I honestly don't know if either, I don't know what their mission plans are or anything, but I don't know that either are ready to make an impact right now in the Big 12. But you get them in your program and you start, getting them stronger, getting them quicker, they're understanding reps. So after a year or so, their ability to go in a game and impact it's there. I mean, you use what we've seen from the Jazz the last couple of years. If anybody thought this year, after watching last year, a lot of people wrote Cody Williams off and said he just can't play. And he may not be in the last iteration of what the Jazz do, but the bottom line is that dude, nobody can deny that he's improved. And Bryce Sensabaugh the same, Kyle Filipowski the same, Isaiah Collier the same. So each one of those guys has gotten better. So from year 1 to year 2, you can actually there's some increase in all those guys, which means you've got a better nucleus. And I think honestly that's the biggest thing over the last couple of years. BYU had recruited a handful of guys and developed them. And I know that was the plan with guys like Stanton who left, but you bring him in here, you give him all the resources, you get him stronger, you get him, better, and then at the end of the year, he says, I'm going to go to Oregon State, So I think the advantage BYU has, and it's always been an advantage in college basketball, I still think it is today, is get old and stay old, and it's all relative. Now you just have to get older than, in some cases, 8 months. So if you can keep guys a couple of years, I think it's in your best interest to develop guys and not lose that little piece.
There's a lot made, Tim, and I'm sure you would hear this kind of stuff from boosters because everybody thinks that their kid or their neighbor or whatever is the one who ought to be the next star at BYU. You probably always have to deal with that when you yeah. Right. So, but now they're in the Big 12, and nothing against the WAC, the Mountain West, and the WCC, but the Big 12, in what probably wasn't their best year, had a Final Four team and 3 Sweet 16 teams. How many kids who grow up on the Wasatch Front can really play in the Big 12? Because Utah fans want local kids like they had back in the day in the 90s under Majerus. And BYU fans want BYU. And a lot of them want return missionaries, right? And it's like, but how many guys
playing basketball, coming up on a Wasatch Front, can really play in the Big 12 when half the league is going to the tournament and 3 teams are going to the Sweet 16?
Well, it's not, it's not what it used to be. And it's not, like you're recruiting way different than through the years than Frank Arnold was in the WAC and Cleve and all the guys he recruited. And, I give Cleve a lot of credit. Nobody talks a ton about what he did, but, Roger was put in a unique situation. He gets fired and Cleve comes in, inherits a 1-win team and really drags that thing to, back to the tournament, which is pretty crazy. And then, those teams struggled to get over the hump of the tournament, and Dave came in and got that done. And, we got on a little nice tournament run, and then Pope came in and he raised in the NIL time. He did a great job of going out and kind of imagining talent. And so, again, long-winded answer, DJ. I used to get those calls all the time. I've got your next Jimmer here. I'll never forget a dude walked up to me at a high school game, and he had his kid with him. The kid was in the 8th grade. And tapped Coach Rosenau on the back, turned around, and he was dead serious. I'd like to introduce you to your new point guard, your point guard. He's in the 8th grade. I had to reach down and shake his hand, But that's how people think around here. And now the Big 12 has changed the game, but there are guys, a guy like Richie Saunders was homegrown. I still believe that top-end talent can really compete, but can it be right out of the gate? And that's going to be the big question, which is why you've got to have a little foresight and a little patience, and you've got to have great development, man. You've got to sell development to those guys to get them on the court. It's not what it used to be. You can't load up, obviously, but there are players out there. They got a kid coming back from a mission this year I really like in Brooks Barr. He was a Pope recruit, but he's got a lot of moxie. He's really tough, and I think he'll register. I mentioned Dean down at Timpview. He's a really good player. Did a nice job on the circuit. I just know what freshman years look like. At least in the WCC, Mountain West, WAC. I don't know what freshman years look like in the Big 12, but it's vastly different. You're playing against grown men, and I do think year by year, I think it's starting to really define itself as the best conference. I think Big 12 was better than SEC this year, and I know the proof's in the pudding on that at the end of the day, but the SEC just didn't have the teeth. I thought SEC was maybe a little better the year before. So I think those two conferences are the premier conferences, and so, yeah, you got to be ready to go, and you've got to be really, really tough, and you got to have some size to you. But, it's still – there's still guys out there, just not like what it used to be.
How do you rate toughness over talent?
That's a hard one. I mean, we used to say that. I wish you could hook a guy up to something. We have all these combine tests for verticality and change of direction and sprint, quick twitch, all that stuff. I wish you could just take them to a station and hook their finger up to a heart monitor. Not that your heart's beating, but what does your heart tell me,
Yeah.
And so, honestly, PK, that was something I used to try to study, just like when you'd go out and talk to people, research a story. I would sit in those gyms and I would look for the differentiator, There was a guy like Jackson Emery, and him, the number of times that dude just went straight horizontal to get a ball in high school, to dive and, consequences be damned. And so really it's those little things. It's who's building their teammates up out there. There's a mental toughness aspect to that. Who is, engaged with the coach, who loses their cool, who doesn't, who wins, who wins a lot. And state championships were a great indicator when we get down to the end and have a couple guys to offer and only a couple of spots. We had a little checklist, and we kind of just put them in matrix. And, hey, did they win a title, in their 4 years? Okay, if yes, how many? We go down and really try to find some sort of equation to measure heart. But at the end of the day, it's something that is the beautiful part about it. There's guys that have simply just stuck around on heart. A guy who sticks out in my mind in the NBA is TJ McConnell.
Yeah.
He's got none of the skills that you look for. I mean, he can dribble like everybody else, but what sets that guy apart is his heart, his want to, his willingness to do whatever it takes. And so those are the things you're looking for. And a guy like, I just mentioned his name, Richie Saunders, when I saw him in the 8th grade running, darn near through walls to try to win games. I was like, this kid has all this other stuff's great, and he can really shoot it, and you've got to get that. That's the barrier for entry. You've got to be able to do some of those skill things. But his want to just in 8th grade, 9th grade maybe, just leapt off the court at me. Like, I cannot believe how he might have played as hard as anybody I ever watched. And you know what? My eyes were right. It translated. And I remember back then we offered the kid, and I got emails from parents of kids that were prospects and AAU coaches. I'm like, what are you doing? This kid is nobody. But we saw the heart. Yeah. And, I'd text saying, he'll never play a Division I game. You guys have no idea what. Okay. Well, how you doing today, fellas? Because we saw it and we were right. And I will say we missed too. We missed on heart. We missed on care. But yeah, there's no. I think of like a battery cable you could hook somebody up to and give you a reading. There's none of that. So that's part of just your gut, man.
I thought you were going to go cheap trick there, but you were just too into the basketball to really, put yourself downstairs.
What I would say
with
to
the
those
guitar.
kids is, I want you to want me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because we're BYU.
Tim, we'll leave it right there for now. You're the man. Thanks for coming in and talking some hoops as the personnel carousel starts spinning.
Well, it's always an honor. I hold you both in such high regard.
I'll see you soon, maybe.
All right. Are you challenging me to golf? All right. You bring the boom box and the classic rock. I'll bring the Diet Coke and a bad golf game.
Okay.
You two with a boom box at like Willow Creek. That'd be hilarious.
No.
You'd be out of there in about 3 minutes.
The boom box is only allowed at the Mick. Yeah, Mick Riley. That's my new home course.
There's to LaComb. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know. News update. This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NBA.
Inbounds to the corner. Kobe White puts up the three. It's good! It's good! It's good! It's good! LaMelo into the paint, goes up for the lay-in. Yes! With 5 seconds left. No timeouts for Miami. They get it to Mitchell. Mitchell racing into the front court. Mitchell up for the lay-in. No! It's over! It's over! It's over! The Hornets win!
Down to 12 in the shot clock. Denny takes off, drives, steps through, puts it in and one. Blazers lead 111-110, and an and one opportunity here for Denny Avdia with 16.1 seconds to play.
Playing basketball, the Charlotte Hornets eliminate the Miami Heat from the play-in tournament. LaMelo Ball with the layup with 5 seconds to go. Miles Bridges the block at the buzzer. 127-126 in overtime. Miami's out. Charlotte's playing for a playoff berth on Friday. And you heard the Blazers clinch the 7th seed in the West. They win 114-110 in Phoenix. Denny Avdia leading Portland with 41 points. And Portland, who'd been playing great defense late in the season, wins on the road 114-110. PK, you get a thrill out of those games. Competitive, playing for something, even though it's, they're probably doomed when they get into a 7-game series, but we'll see.
I don't have Prime Video. Can't help you there.
Oh, there you go. In the NFL, when they stream the games or when they even put them on a cable satellite carrier, they put them on in the local markets. I mean, that wouldn't help us here, but the NBA is not even doing that.
Rats.
I know.
you know, if you want to be the NFL and make all the money, maybe just copy what they do. But no, they don't.
Looking at it right now, I saw the excitement of the players for Charlotte, and that's understandable because that's been a woe-begone franchise. And now they make some good picks, a guy like Kobe White from the Bulls to come off the bench, and they got some excitement going on. And this is the first time in a long time, and so I get why these youngsters would be super excited. I mean, with Adebayo going out and only playing 11 minutes, that's going to impact the Miami Heat tremendously. So, but that doesn't matter to Charlotte. They are excited, and probably their fan base is excited, and that's cool for them.
Yeah, I saw a video someone took from in the stands. You can see all the arms, people bouncing up and down, going wild. So if you're a Hornets fan, it's been a long time. Win something, show some progress, and you're doing that this year.
Yeah.
Got a winning record and now won this playing game.
And it's good for them.
Yep. Warrior star Steph Curry, speaking of players and limited minutes, will be on a minutes restriction tonight, although the number is 40, so that when I heard minutes restriction, I immediately went to, is he only going to play 20 or 25? But it turns out it's 40, so he can still play a pretty good chunk of the game here. Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford facing similar restrictions, but again, it looks like they're going to be able to play a lot of minutes. We'll see when we get there.
I mean, if it goes 3 overtimes, they're going to be hurting.
Yeah, see. Orlando and Philly at 5:30, and then the Warriors and Clippers at 8 o'clock, and these are both prime video games as well. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
What does that mean for A.J. Brown? Do you feel like if he is traded, you have depth there at wide receiver?
What do you think the odds are that I'm answering this question any different than I answered anywhere else? Like, really? Like, do you think that's like 50%? Do you think that's 75%?
I felt like I needed to ask.
A.J. Brown's an Eagle.
That's Philadelphia Eagles general manager Howie Roseman. His stance about disgruntled wide receiver A.J. Brown remains unchanged. So now they did bring in Dontavian Wicks from Green Bay, so is this just posing? And hey, when the right offer comes, they'll make a move. Time will tell.
What do you think the answer is? The odds are that I'm going to know the answer to that.
And I think 100%. I think the only thing we have to fall back on, we don't know, but we have seen teams in a similar situation. Hey, you say one thing when it suits your purpose then, and it suits their purpose now to say he's an Eagle. And if the right deal comes along, it'll suit their purpose to have a press conference and announce they traded him. So
yeah, I think you can pretty much say that about every player in the league.
Raiders have been fielding calls from other NFL teams about the top overall pick in the draft. General manager John Spytek said he remains open-minded about trade offers, but it seems like the franchise will stay at the top of the draft and select Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza.
Now, you say they've been fielding calls from other NFL teams, so there's not a chance he can go back to college. So it's not like the powers that we know, LSU, they're not calling.
No, and then probably
NFL
nothing
teams
from the Canadian League or the UFL or anybody else.
Okay.
Veteran NFL reporter Diana Rossini resigned her position with The Athletic and The New York Times less than a week after photos of her and New England Patriots coach Mike Vrabel at an Arizona resort prompted an internal investigation at the outlet into her conduct. The New York Post published the photos of the two. Both Rossini and Vrabel had issued statements downplaying the nature of the photos in the immediate aftermath. So,
well, I have zero interest in this story. Absolutely zero.
Zero. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
He's the greatest. He's the greatest of all time, man. It's been fun to watch his whole career, coming up at such a young age and instantly just putting yourself at the top of the list. It's special. He's led those boys over there for quite a few years, and just to see him day in and day out show up. I know he's had some tough injuries over the years, but, to see himself put himself back in a better spot this year, and every time he comes to the Bronx, man, he puts on a show. I hate to see it, but it's fun competing against a guy like that.
Angels beat the Yankees 7-1. Mike Trout getting lauded there by Aaron Judge. Both those guys 3-time MVPs. Not really head-to-head, PK. I mean, yes, they're going head-to-head, but as Judge's star has risen here the last few years, Trout's been battling injuries for about 5 years now. But nonetheless, there they are going head-to-head in this series back in New York, and we'll see if Trout can stay healthy and and get back to the top of
Well,
the
there's so-called box office draws. I think that's what it is. Trout will be 35 here in August. So it's amazing. It really, really catches you when they were kids. I think, I know Bryce Harper will be 34 in October.
Where does the time go, right?
It'd go for everybody, and take advantage of what you got and be able to do it.
Angels beat the Yankees 7-1 last night. Baltimore Orioles manager Craig Albernaz, who was hit by that line drive Monday night, will now, upon further examination, 7 fractures in his cheek as well as a broken jaw. He returned to the game after getting checked out. He's not going to need surgery, and so he is planning on managing and just keep it going.
They said on the Baseball Network this morning that he would need surgery.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Now he will, huh?
I don't know. I don't know who's right, but I was listening to it coming in. They were obviously talking about him, talking about your guy Mason Miller hasn't allowed a run, freaking hit forever. You got to go back to last year, man. We saw him in the World Baseball Classic. He's a reliever for the Padres. They've won 6 in a row. Scoreless streak to 29 2/3. Wow.
An awesome stretch by him, halfway to a record, and he just keeps nailing it down for the
He's
Padres.
4 innings shy of the franchise record. Some guy I literally have never heard of. Meredith? Have you heard of him?
Yes.
What's his first name?
Paul? I'm not sure.
You would think I would know that. I mean, I follow baseball.
You would think I would know that too.
But I never heard of the guy.
I've heard of his name, but he's not. I mean, when you say that, they've had multiple Cy Young winners. You think one of them would have the record?
Not necessarily. I mean, guys,
Clay.
Superstars don't throw no-hitters, and random dudes do.
Yeah, it's Clay Meredith.
No, I literally never heard of the guy. It's amazing.
Yeah. He's not with them anymore.
I know that.
He came up with the Red Sox, and he's in Baltimore now. So a little bit of a journeyman type, but hey, you get it together one month, and you put together a streak. Christian Yelich is out. Brewers lost to Washington 8-6. He suffered a second-degree abductor strain, and he's saying he's going to miss at least a month. So. And Jared Duran directed an obscene gesture towards the fan at Target Field as he returned to the dugout during a 6-0 loss to the Minnesota Twins. He said the fan crossed the line with a personal comment. Told him to go kill himself. And he's been pretty open about mental health struggles and all of that. And so he gave him the obscene gesture back. Bees beat the Sugarland Space Cowboys 8-3 in the series opener. They play again tonight. Tony Parks on the call. 6:35 first pitch. 6:20 pregame show on 1280 The Zone. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NHL.
Here's a stretch feed. Cooley's in the clear. Backhander scores! Logan Cooley dazzles the Delta center. Keller on the far side. In tight, Cooley feathering one back to Gunther on the near side. Schmaltz has to bump it back out. Keller side of the net. Schmaltz fires and scores! And Nick Schmaltz has 2 tonight. The Mammoth extend their lead, and it's another power play goal. Sandberg ridden up against the glass by number 15. Paterka in front, dangles and scores! Hey, JJ!
The Utah Mammoth get the win. 5-3 the final score. They beat the Winnipeg Jets. They took control of this game, and a little rally late by the Jets there, but the empty netter at the end puts it away for the Utah Mammoth. They get the win, and 5-3 the final. A couple of goals for Schmaltz, both of them on the power play. So he leads the way in this one. He's got 33 goals on the season now, and they were up 4-1 in the third before Winnipeg made it close. But they clinched the playoff berth. The Kings lose in overtime, and it's a 2-point spread now with 1 game to go, and the Mammoth hold the tiebreaker, which is more wins, so they are good to go. Now they wait to see who wins the Pacific Division, and then we'll know who they're playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, now they better win. They made a big deal about it.
I know, right? You get this break and this advantage on paper, but you got to cash in on the ice.
Right.
All right, DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
Well, just yesterday we were telling you about West High School quarterback Kamden Lopati, who said he'd given a verbal commitment to Illinois, but he decided never mind on that. And so now he turns around and commits to Michigan and Kyle Whittingham. So he's headed to Ann Arbor. Is Kyle going to sink his claws into the recruiting scene here in Utah? Or just occasionally because Michigan recruits nationally?
Well, I mean, they recruit nationally, obviously, but they'll have a connection here. I mean, his name is going to resonate for a good while, probably for as long as he coaches. They got the Moa kid, but you could say he was a college kid since he was literally enrolled at Utah, as Mark Harlan had pointed out in a tweet. So this would be considered the first, I guess, true high school or literal high school kid. Mm-hmm. And they say he's top 10 in the country, for whatever that means. I mean, and that's great. You want that, but we just don't know on quarterbacks, right? We've seen so many that had all these stars and rankings and this and that, and they don't pan out. So we have no idea to what level. But it's another thing. You know, when Bronco went to Virginia, he picked off a few LDS kids, and so it's just another level of competition now that our local schools have to deal with, because there's an awareness and a connection, obviously, with Michigan being so Utah dominant. I mean, just the state of Utah, in addition to the U of U, but it even goes beyond that. And so what does that mean? You know, I think there's plenty of kids out there, so I don't think it's a crushing blow on its own. Certainly no one kid, because you can go and find a player who's just as good as maybe better, and you coach them up and blah, blah, blah. But it's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And we've seen schools coming in here. There's kids committed to Texas A&M and USC and Iowa this year. Previous years, obviously, kids have gone to Oregon and Washington and Ohio State and wherever else. But you're right, it is one more thing that, you know, he's got a name here, and if it's a kid you want or a kid you were going to get. I mean, in this case, he's taken him away from Illinois, you know, the local schools that already seemingly lost out on. I mean, with the transfer portal, you never know. You know, in a year or two, he might be transferring back home, right?
Right, and it's a position of quarterback in that, you know, you may take 3, 4, 5, depending on what your recruiting needs are in a given season, offensive linemen, or in the transfer portal. You know, quarterbacks normally don't go. You don't often see, certainly you don't see 3 in a class. Maybe you might see 2, but with the portal being what it is and bouncing around, you just really have no idea. I mean, we'll have to look at get to at least 2028 before we see what's going on here, maybe even later beyond that. If the rules are still the same, maybe they change the rules by then and you only get the 1 free transfer as opposed to as many as you want.
You know, it's interesting in this case, it's, and you never know, but with BYU, Utah, and Michigan all playing young quarterbacks last year, it's like, where will the playing time come at any of those schools? And that's basically what we're talking about. You know, is Kyle going to take guys away from the local schools? And so many quarterbacks don't want to go somewhere where there was a freshman who showed well. And all 3 schools had freshmen who showed well. So maybe a little odd in that regard.
Well, yeah, I think the Utah one is a little overstated. Not to say that
it could be.
He can't
showed
do
the least
it,
of
but I
the
mean, it
3,
was in limited duty.
Yep, he showed the least of the 3. But he did get a start, and he did look good when he got the start. So,
as a runner.
Yep. All right, DJ and PK, there are the headlines. That is what is going on. It is brought to you. What is trending? Brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Coming up, Eric Kerr, Weber State football coach, joins us at 8 o'clock, going through the transfer portal for the first time in his first spring ball. We'll talk with him. Mike Weir, former Masters champion, playing in the Senior PGA Championship this week. He'll join us at 9 o'clock. Plus, it's a Win Tickets Wednesday coming up later in the show. We will have a pair of tickets to watch the Brit Floyd, the Pink Floyd tribute band that'll be at the Maverick Center on June 6th. So stick around for that in the 8 o'clock hour. DJ and PK, the question of the day. Hot takes or toast? It's next. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
This is JJ and Alex. I got this.
Travis Yost, our guest. He covers the NHL for TSN.
For the Mammoth, I think they're the fourth best team in the West. I think that they would be a likely favorite against Anaheim. They could be or should be a favorite in a series against Vegas. If the Mammoth close the season as we expect, by goal differential, this is the best team that has ever been on the ice for either the Utah or Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes franchise by goal differential this season right here, right now. This team absolutely should not be thinking we made it to the playoffs. What an accomplishment. At this point, considering how good the Mammoth have been, and I mean that, they really should be thinking, how do we go in and win a round in the playoffs? And I think if you've got Anaheim on the ice, even if you're the road team in that series, that's a matchup the Mammoth should want, and it's one they should win.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
The KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest. And listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Question of the morning, and people are flocking to it. Should BYU overpay for Rob Wright? What should they do? Objection, Michael says. A leading question, Your Honor. He's a lawyer. Brady says, by definition, overpay is a bad thing. Don't do it. And we do have plenty of people who are just saying, nope, they're out on him. Doug, I can read you a long list of people saying no. Doug says no, he was focused on scoring plays, not on winning plays.
Well, in defense of him, that the ball club needed him to do what he did. What else were they going to do? We can crack on it, but if I have the greatest pass ever and you miss it, I don't get an assist.
Yeah.
And so I know that he did have a game with 0 assists, but I have to go through every single pass and see if there were good passes that shots should have been made. We know that they had scoring deficiencies once they got past 3, and then when Saunders went down, once they got past 2. I mean, in retrospect, maybe you can just blame Kevin Young for the way the team was put together. If you want to do that, I'm open to that discussion. But when you want to go in a different direction, they actually achieved a fair amount given what they had available. And I can argue, and he did a better coaching job this year than last year, even though the result last year was way better. And, since you are the coach and the CEO and, the Jerry Jones fantasy where everything you get to say and get to do whatever you want. And have other people who assist you and have other titles that they have areas of responsibility. But still, in the end, it is the head coach's decision virtually on everything he or she wants it to be in college sports. So I would like to see Rob Wright in a better situation where he had some other scoring options outside of himself and one other guy. So, yeah, how else was he going to approach the game? And maybe that's just who he is, and he could have 4 All-Stars with him, and he's still going to be looking to take as many FGAs as possible.
It didn't look like he was breaking the offense. It looked like the offense was isolation ball with one of 2 guys in a lot of situations. So I get your point. And he didn't have shooters to throw the ball to, and that's why right after the NCAA tournament loss to Texas, the coach is saying he got to go get shooters, and he's backed up the actions with words. He's gone out and got 2 guys who are shooters. So there are people as far as the overpay. Dustin, well, they already gave him $3 million to steal him from Baylor. What's another 3 to 5 more? And Aaron, why shouldn't they? I mean, you can't take it with you, and it's not my dollars to spend, so spend away. So the whole overpay part of the question, people aren't that worried about. Now, assuming that there's some kind of budget, no matter how massive it is, that it isn't endless amounts of money, the question is who else can you get and how much do you pay? You know, if you can get someone who contribute to us winning as much for 60% of the money, it's a pretty easy answer.
Well,
but who else do they have?
If that's a reduction, I don't know that it's available, though. I think that I would like to see some continuity there, particularly with the guy who has the ball in his hands the most amount of time, and certainly would appear, at least at the beginning or half the season until they get to conference play, would have that. I would like to have someone who, going into conference play, is a junior and has been around me, and I've been around you and everything, and for Rob Wright and Kevin Young and BYU versus the individual, I mean, he'll have new players. You're always going to have new players in the college game. It's been obviously amplified in a manner that we haven't seen going back to the traditional days of college basketball. But it seems to me that I would like to have him as somebody who knows what we're doing, how we do it. I mean, that's been the staple of Kyle Whittingham's success for decades, is that there was continuity, there was consistency, there was stability, all those types of words. The kids always knew what they were going to do, whether it was Monday of game week or whether it was Monday of the third week of training camp in August. As long as they'd been there, the newcomers wouldn't. And so everything, and I knew what they were going to do at that point. You knew how they were going to practice, and they've changed it up. You don't go to it anymore, but when you did, you would see the same types of formats depending on what day of week it was and what time of year it was every year. And there was like zero surprise. I would think that would help to keep Rob Wright in the fold when you are looking at automatically almost every team is having so much change. If you could find a way to have somebody who's been in the program and is going to play a prominent role, I think that would be beneficial.
If we're giving the coach the room to learn and grow, shouldn't we give a sophomore the room to learn and grow?
Yeah, and I'm a little bit hesitant to criticize him under the circumstances. How do I know that if they actually had a post presence who could score? I mean, they literally had zero outside of the 2 of those guys and Richie when he was healthy driving to the basket. Even the other guys who came in, the Kennard Davis, Kostic, Mihailo, none of those guys, I can't recall one time them taking the ball on a bounce and driving to the basket. So they literally had zero post-scoring, certainly in the traditional sense, low block. And maybe if they can get that, we might see not a completely different Rob Wright, most likely, but a different or a more varied and multifaceted Rob Wright. So let's not just pigeonhole him based on what we saw exclusively last year and say that's who he is under all circumstances.
Brittany says, yes, go grab the owner a cookie crumble. Let's get it done. Brittany's on board. Bring him back.
I think that's where I am, too. I would agree with her.
Get a junior?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone that would be a natural leader. He's not very, not a guy who is, talkative and all that, but maybe he can grow into that role a little bit better. Yeah, I don't see how his return is anything but a net positive.
Brett's using logic. Overpay. If all the parties agree on the terms, how's that overpaying?
Well, because it's relative to what's out there. It's not a simple transaction between team and player. It is compared to what he could get at someplace else, what's within your budget. There's that to me that sounds fancy, but it's not true. There's a lot of things that can go into it. They may feel like, okay, and I think this is the way teams do it, and really at the pro level too, which is now college basketball, I guess, so same thing. You have ideas, and so you have a finite amount of money, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to slot guys and within your budget, and then you go from there. And maybe they need to change that and say, okay, well, we want to keep them. We feel like we need to keep them. And Kentucky or whomever, they've raised the ante. So now you've got leverage. This young man and his folks have leverage. And so do we want to meet that because he has that opportunity? I think that's they could overpay him according to what they originally had targeted for him as the price.
I think it'll be interesting to see what they want to do here and how much of it rests on their relationship with him and how much they felt, as a point guard, you want to be an extension of the coach on the floor. And so to your point about being a junior instead of a sophomore, and did they feel like over the course of the season he was getting it? He was executing what they wanted executed. And maybe they weren't good enough, to execute and win, but was there the effort there? How much was there him, drifting off and doing his own thing, or just not being able to do what they wanted to do? A lot of that would, I think, weigh into how much growth they're projecting out of him this coming year.
Well, I think everyone should be an extension of the coach.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what position you play. All five guys, everybody who plays, should be doing what the coach wants. That would be my idea. I know the cliche is the point guard, but I want everyone to reflect what we're trying to do, because if there's a weakness in one, it leads to a weakness in all, in the collective. So I would want everybody doing his own thing. I go back to what I just said. He had no choice to do his own thing. What was it going to be? And if we can see it, then it is ultra obvious amongst the players. They know. And these other guys, the chances of them getting it done are so slim. I mean, I would have to go back, and obviously I wouldn't do it anyway, but I could argue that this was the thinnest depth-wise of a BYU team that ever made the tournament.
I get why you would say that.
Yeah.
It had a star at the top, unlike anybody.
True.
But then
absolutely,
you get behind and you start like, okay, show me guy 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And if you take guy 3 through 7 and match them up with guys 3 through 7 for other years, I don't think this team's going anywhere.
Right. Yeah, they didn't have a player
if you stay
like
with
that.
the NCAA years, obviously.
Right. Yeah. I mean, certainly in my mind of the time that I've been here, that they weren't as so thin. I mean, as I was saying the other day, it is something, if one of those guys 4 through 8 did anything, BYU fans got excited. Oh, man, we're on to something. The bar was so low.
Yeah.
It was extremely low. And it was painful to watch. It's like every game was basically the same. It's like, all right, you're going to have to do it. You two guys, you're going to play. Between them, they would play 80. They had 80 minutes available. Well, they were playing at least 75, if not all 80, and probably 78. Usually towards the end, DeBonsa wasn't coming out. Wright would maybe come out for a minute or two. They try to sandwich around a timeout to get some real-time rest. But they couldn't afford to have him off the floor. And to me, I just don't want to put in pen, this is the way this young man will be. He'll be selfish. He'll be this. He'll be that. I really don't know. Get him opportunities with other guys. I'd have to see what he did at Baylor. I mean, I watched him play at Baylor, but only really when they were playing BYU. Or if I watched him, and I did watch Baylor more than what they played on BYU, because in the winter, not a whole lot to do on those Saturdays. And you end up watching Big 12 basketball to get a feel for what our teams are facing. But there was no focus. Like when I watched Baylor not this past season, but the season before, I was focused on Edgecombe. because I had heard about him. I wasn't focused on Rob Wright. I would have had no idea, literally, that Rob Wright, in just a few months later, would be in Provo. No clue. So I wasn't focused on him. Focused on Edgecombe and loved what I saw. I was like, this guy's got an NBA body right now. And sure enough, he had a fantastic rookie season. We'll see him available to play tonight. So let's see what Rob Wright can do if he decides to come back. Actually, when he goes, or if he goes, I should say, wherever he goes, I'm going to follow him. And just to see, as I've made these assumptions that his game could potentially be altered, well, wherever he plays next year, I'm going to watch it to see if that's true. How does he play in that environment?
Got more people weighing in. The question, what should they do with Rob Wright? Should they overpay him and bring him back? And there are plenty of people who are like, what's overpaying college basketball these days? Tony, if you want to be competitive, you already know the answer to this question.
Well, that's in general. I don't think it's particular. That's more of a broad statement. That's a fact. I agree with that, Tony, 100%. That it's crazy. It's just gone crazy for sure. And that's the way of the world. And you can either step back and say, that's ridiculous, or just join the crowd and see what you can do. So how that pertains to an individual, that remains to be seen. And it's the same thing at the NBA level. I'm going to stop calling it at the pro level, since this is basically pro itself too. What I will feel comfortable in saying is at the NBA level, as opposed to at the pro level, you have to get the value for whatever you pay. The value's got to be there, and if the value is there relative to the paycheck, you probably got a pretty good team. It's just that, and we've seen this at the NBA, some of these guys get enormous amounts of money, and they don't come close to matching the production, and even enormous amounts of money on scale, meaning they're all getting enormous amounts of money. But we're talking enormous amounts of money in the NBA perspective, and if you don't get what you paid them, that throws your whole salary schedule out of whack, right? And then you have problems. And maybe likely it's the same thing at the college level. Whatever they paid DeBonsa, they got it. They absolutely got it. They got it in production, which is the most important. They got it in feel good with the fans because he seemed to embrace the so-called BYU way, and he was lovable. He loved them. They loved him back. So the discussion that has been going on, and I heard it the other day of some national thing I was stumbled upon. Did they get their ROI on DeBonsa? Yes, 100%. Yes. Because your return on your investment, it's not simply between the lines. And he was very good between the lines. And then outside the lines, he was a smash.
To your point, I think we've just gone through this 4-year rebuild. Well, we've gone through it for a couple of reasons, but one of them is Gobert's salary shot up, into the 30 and then the 40 millions of dollars. The Jazz management ownership just didn't feel like they were getting value for it. When he's making 40 million, if he's making 20 or 25, maybe they can put more of a team around him and they think there's a way forward. But they felt like there was no way forward with that group, and one of the reasons was the money was spent.
Sure, but I think that if they had some other players around him, it would have been fine or finer. Maybe nothing is fine unless you win it all. But I don't think that it was strictly the Gobert salary. I thought it was also Mitchell making his intentions known and those two having conflict.
And the conflict and the fact that Mitchell didn't really want to play defense, the fact that Gobert was super limited offensively, and the money was spent. Yes, there were multiple factors. But one of them was the money was spent. There was no way forward.
So you think that they regret Minnesota paying him that money?
Boy, Minnesota, no, probably not, because they know they had to pay to get it, and then they got him to sign a contract where he took less starting this season.
4 years later?
It got them to a spot, and they did it. I think I have to go back and look. They still had some guy maybe on a couple guys on inexpensive contracts so they could pull it off. For a team that hadn't won a playoff series since Garnett in 2004, I think, I think they were willing to pay the price. But for here, where you've got Jay-Z, to his credit, going public and saying we haven't been to a conference final since 2007, I think the bar was in a different place here. And here, it's the Jazz are a big deal, and all eyes are on them. And in Minnesota, they've got all of the major sports, and Wolves are trying to be relevant, so you got to get to the playoffs. And even if you get knocked out, now they did get to the conference finals with him, so it's not like it was all on him. It certainly wasn't, but I think it was a factor.
All right.
All right, DJ and PK, we got to take a break coming up. We've got the Masters champ joining us at 9 o'clock. Stick around. Mike Weir is going to be here talking golf. He's got the Senior PGA Championship coming up. Get his thoughts on what was a wild week. There's all kinds of changes on the tour. He's very good on the big picture stuff and in golf as well. Mike Weir coming up at 9 o'clock. Eric Kerr, Weber State football coach, at 8 o'clock. What's it like to go through spring football and the transfer portal for the first time? How much talent is out there for the Wildcats? We'll talk with Eric Kerr coming up at 8 o'clock. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
You have the box score in front of you?
I do.
How many minutes did Kyle Filipowski play?
Phil played 24 minutes.
How many minutes did James Harden play?
39 minutes.
It's not a good sign. You're in Salt Lake City. The Jazz are not trying to win. That's exactly why the Jazz made the trade they did. The Donovan Mitchell trade of knowing you're only going to last so long in the playoffs. You just didn't know how far it was going to take you, but you knew it was not going to take you to a championship, which Jazz fans will remember. And it's actually a type of pain that when you're not experiencing it, you might forget about it. But it's this is not going to end the way you want it to, but I guess you'll just watch the playoffs as long as they last. And they said, we want to actually raise the ceiling to a point where maybe there's a championship, and the pain to get there is going to be significant, and that's what these 4 years have been, and it is.
I was always in the camp of you either do it or don't, and they went into the rebuild, which I think will eventually pay off.
Catch Jake and Ben weekdays from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Scotty G today, noon to 3, Bar W Beef pop-up event at the Cal Ranch store at 950 North Main Street in Spanish Fork. PK, we were just talking about Rob Wright, and there's an associated question there. You know, the whole thought about should you overpay for Rob Wright. Well, there are reports that NIL payments to the basketball players are up 65% over last year. Absurd or the cost of winning? To which Michael says both. Are you really overpaying if everybody's up 65%? Everybody's price tag has just jumped. That's the market.
Yeah.
Vernon points out NIL is making it almost impossible for mid-majors to win anymore. March Madness is not March Madness.
Oh, I mean, when have they've won a game or two here and there? Maybe win 4, but is that
they
really
don't win
that
championships.
different?
There have been several teams with Cinderella runs to Final Fours or title games, and Butler did it more than once, although that's in the rearview mirror a little ways now. But if Florida Atlantic can do it.
Well, I think it can be done, but it's rare because that's why you mention them, because it is rare.
Yep, it is rare.
If it were commonplace, you wouldn't mention it. It wouldn't be something that stood out in your mind. So I think you can still have those runs, but they were never sustained. And those programs, they caught fire. St. Joseph's had one a few years back, and then this was before the NIL. And then what does the coach do? He goes to Seton Hall.
I'm out.
Right?
Routinely
We're going to criticize the
big
players
jobs
for doing that. They're going to go to a bigger school and get more money. It doesn't make any sense. So it's been done. It will continue to be done. It won't ever change, that pattern, right? The Florida Atlantic coach. Oh, where did he go? Oh, he went to Michigan and just won the national title, right? And he had transfers. He's a transfer himself.
Yeah, you don't even need that big a run. I mean, it's just the way things work.
Right. But those are the two you mentioned. And Brad Stevens, where did he go? He went to the Celtics. So your big runs, they all take off. I just named you 3 that were listed in the Cinderella category, and they were gone. They took off to greener pastures. So the players shouldn't? It doesn't make any sense. in the end, those coaches, the three of them, they had no loyalty to their individual school. They got a better offer, presumably, most definitely, more money. And what did they do? They took it.
Yep. Florida Gulf Coast, they just went Sweet 16, and Enfield was gone to USC in a heartbeat, and now SMU. So
yeah, I mean, that was a while ago.
Let's go on down the line. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it is insane, but no one is forcing anyone to do it. It's the arms race. It used to be the arms race was the facilities and the shiny helmets and the new buildings and all those things, right? You had to keep up, and they would talk about that. Well, now nobody talks about that because most of the folks have it, and then also it's far more about the literal cash that you're giving to the individual. And I could have the junkiest facility, but if I pay a player $5 million, he ain't going to care.
We're practicing in a high school gym across the street. All right, make sure my $5 million is there.
So it turns out that really didn't matter as much. That was just the focus. That was something for coaches to complain about. And now it's the money. Well, don't do it then. I mean, there are programs that aren't doing it. I mean, I doubt the Big Sky and Big West is doing it to the degree.
Right.
And so they're going to – but they've always gotten what they paid for. They were always behind the eight ball when it came to all that stuff. That really hasn't changed, right? It's always been that way. And now it'll continue to be that way. And these guys are getting big-time money. It's just funny the way the explosion has taken place to where it was hush-hush under the table, and people would say, we got to get these kids money because they're the product. And, the coach is one of the reasons, but it's also the product, and we're mostly about when we go to the games, we go to watch the players. And so that's what we have here. And now it's exploded, and now we want to rein it in. It's like, wow, how did we get from point A to point Z without going to point H? We just blew right by all that.
0 to 60.
I think it's 0 to about 500.
Glenn says it's absurd, of course, but it's also the cost of doing business. If you want to win, you got to spend.
Yeah, and so what is your return on investment for those guys? It's funny, BYU, because they were sort of a new kid on the block with that, that was a national and local discussion. Did Duke, if they're looking to win it all, did they get the return? They haven't each of the last 2 years, but is it more than that? Because I can argue it's more than that. Financially, whatever they gave out, did they recoup? Is it when we talk about an ROI, that's usually in a financial sense where it's literal finance. It's not anything extrinsic benefits or blessings in terms of publicity. Obviously in BYU, they got it in terms of unmatched publicity, particularly for a team that went out in the first round, which they've had so many of them. Did they get the amount of publicity? Well, yeah, it's a smashing success. Places like Duke, they don't really need any more publicity. They've got it as much as they could possibly handle. But did they get it? Is the only one that got it Michigan because they won the title? That's kind of harsh to say. I think probably financially, there's many schools that benefited from that.
Yeah, everybody's got to do their own thing there, and it probably depends on who you are. The president in Indiana will okay another $1 million raise to Kurt Signetti because they're looking at the $10 million or $20 million or whatever they're getting as these out-of-state students flood in and pay top dollar to go to Indiana. So that's the ROI to him. But you're right, to another booster, maybe it's just the thrill and the excitement and the pride factor. And I guess every school has to set a bar. At Arizona, they didn't win it all, and I'm sure they're disappointed by getting blown out in the semifinal. But also the goal there for a long time was get back to the Final Four, and they did check that box.
Yeah, but somehow that doesn't seem good enough.
Yeah, the way the semifinal went, maybe it wasn't. Everybody's got to answer that for themselves, and whoever's writing the checks down there. And I guess that's the other thing. And we could probably get talk to the Robbie Boscos and the Chad Lewis's of the world. If you got 4 or 5 big boosters, they don't necessarily see it all the same way, right? I mean, one booster might be thrilled by the Final Four, and another one might be horrified that Michigan just ran them off the floor. So
I do think for me, and this is just me, that it is kind of almost embarrassing. Certainly I would put it silly. I don't know if I'd go as far as gross, that some 50, 60-year-old, I'm going to pay all this money so I can feel good.
Yeah, gets a rush out of this.
That just seems wrong. Why do you care that much? That just seems to be a little bit over the top to me. I guess for BYU, maybe you can claim, I would assume if you're given that kind of money that you're probably connected and associated at the same level religiously, and maybe you think you're furthering the cause, that it goes beyond basketball.
Right.
I love when they tell us that.
There's awareness. It starts conversations.
And maybe for the U of A, they can say, oh, yeah, sure, that we do that too. But do they really care about the university that much? Or is it so I can say, wow, I'm friends with fill-in-the-blank young man. He knows who I am. It's just, I just see something that's just a little off base about that. But that's the way the world goes. And that's how you have your entertainment. And somebody could say, man, you spend a lot of money at golf. What are you doing that for? That's ridiculous. I get it.
DJ and PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Eric Kjar, Weber State football coach, will join us. Spring football, the Wildcats, the foray into the transfer portal. Man, for the States, for a guy who just had a dominant high school football program, there's a lot of new things to deal with. We'll talk with him about that. Coming up next, stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined now by Weber State football coach Eric Kjar. Eric, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. I am really curious to talk to you. You were a high school football coach.
You did in a former life to have to deal with PK every day?
Come on.
Oh, nice.
Have you ever asked yourself that question?
And yes, he drops to his knees and praises the Almighty.
Oh, man.
Sorry, PK.
I'm used to it.
Yeah, me too. See, people don't know. People don't know. They just don't know. Oh,
they don't understand your plight of what you've had to deal with in life.
Jeez, my plight.
Hey, I got back at him, though, DJ. For years, I sat in the stands and screamed, replace the coach.
He did. Andy would send anonymous emails all the time that I had to track down through like an IP address that were coming from him.
When you lost that game once every other year, he was furious.
He lost 10 games at corner. What the freak?
10 more than we wanted to, that's for sure.
Yeah. So what is the biggest change? You're used to the rhythm of the high school season, and you had a powerhouse, and you had it rolling, and now you go to Weber State, and, man, it's older kids, it's newer rules, it's NIL. What has been the biggest adjustment, the thing where you're like, I have really got to get my arms around this?
More than anything, like day-to-day operations of like running a college football program, there's quite a bit of difference between that and a high school program, and just trying to learn as much as I can and lean on people that have been through it before, and managing rosters is probably the biggest one, and then trying to figure out some of the NIL stuff. Like, that's probably not going to be a huge reality. We do some of it for sure, and then just organizing things from like a recruiting standpoint for our assistant coaches, areas, what we're looking for, needs, like traits we're looking for in players at certain positions, all those types of things. Everybody thinks I was already probably doing that recruiting part at Corner Canyon, but not.
I've always thought that other stuff that you speak of, that's different. But when you're devising a game plan, that coaching is coaching. Do you see that, or is coaching at this level much different from what you have been doing?
I think that part's probably the most similar part of the whole thing, the actual football aspect of it, like teaching, coaching players, especially from a scheme standpoint, what you're looking for, like running practice and stuff like that. That part was, been the easiest transition of the whole thing. I think that's, like you said, the game planning, installing scheme, teaching the day-to-day, having accountability at practice and pushing kids to, just be better. that part was, the easiest part, probably the most natural part of what I think I bring to the table as a coach.
I'm curious about assessing these guys in the transfer portal because we see all these guys leaving Power 4 schools and even, Group of 5 or I guess with the Pac-12 Group of 6 schools now. And so you would think at a quote-unquote lower level there'd be a lot of talent available. But I would just, whenever I talk with people about that, I think the thing you always have to mention is, hey, there are future NFL players running around in the big sky. That's really clear. And on top of that, you got to be able to measure, the heart and the work ethic, and you still have to get better. So there are guys who on paper look like they should really be able to help you, and at the same time, you really got to be careful you get the right guys. How do you assess that, especially when you're doing it for the first time?
That's really the hardest part, because I think the more you dive into the portal, especially at our level, I think you run that risk a little bit. Some kids are looking to finish their career, playing more and having an opportunity to play. And like Devin Browns is that way. Some kids are just looking for another chance, and you don't know what what baggage they might have, or, why they're in the portal, or what's happened previously in their playing career that's, put them in this position. And so you're trying to evaluate all that stuff, and that's a slippery slope because you just don't know. You talk to other coaches or coaches where they've been or that are in their program or that were in their program, and they tell you things, but you still are really it's a risk for sure every time you take a kid, in my opinion, out of the portal just because you're not 100% sure what you're going to get. And then you're looking at, how well will they fit into the culture you're trying to establish in your program, like what that's going to look like, their fit. Because talent-wise, I think that part's the easier part to really evaluate. It's just when you start getting down into the culture-wise, how they fit your position group and all those other aspects, any off-field issues, whatever. That's the scary part, because that part's probably the most important thing you're looking for.
You mentioned Devin Brown. Remember him when he was playing for you at corner, and then he's gone on, Ohio State, Cal, and now he's coming back. It's kind of a weird situation to reunite with his high school coach, but that's what we have here. But you also got other guys, Tisdale, McCollum, Duran. Where's it stand as far as the quarterbacking?
Yeah, I'm surprised Devin wanted me to coach him again. I didn't know how much he likes that the first time. But, yeah, it's been fun having him back, and it's been just, his approach, his attitude, and everything else. He's so coachable and listens, and just been great. In our program already here, just taking a business-like approach, handles himself the right way. And then our other quarterbacks, like Cash, is really, really talented. Player from Texas who probably, he had a little incident with his hand last year, else he probably would have played, I think, significant reps last year. And then because of that injury, Kingston was able to play quite a bit last year and had some good games, and had a really, really good game against Northern Arizona, their last game of the year. And then DJ's coming from a junior college, and a pass scheme has been really kind of new to him based off what they were running before, but he's picked it up really, really well. We've been super happy with him through the spring in his role. He's been great.
One thing I've heard former Weber State coaches say, a couple of them have said it. Dave Arslanian used to scream it from the rooftops. There are a lot of skill players. Guys blossom late. Maybe guys don't get the right coaching. Guys are they're not in the right system. He said you can find skill players, and those are a lot of times the players that you see moving on from the Big Sky to the NFL. He said, but man, it's pretty clear what's happening at the line of scrimmage. Everyone can see when one kid starts pushing another kid around. He said finding linemen at this level is really tricky. And I would think in the transfer portal, where if anyone starts having tape like that, they're gone in a heartbeat. How easy has it been to find linemen on both sides of the ball?
That's been, you hit it right on the head. It's really difficult. Big bodies are at a premium right now, just in general in college football, and if you're even average, at this level, you have value, like at the highest levels of football. Like they'll come in and scoop you up for $300,000 and $400,000 to come be, a depth piece at a Power 4, Power 5 type school. And we can't match anything like that, but that's really the reality. There's 2 kids that left here that have done that, that were here this winter. And I think that, because that's what everybody's looking for. Everybody, like you had mentioned with Coach Arcelani, and that piece is so important in football. And those guys are just getting scooped up at the highest levels. So you really got to try to find guys that are getting overlooked, that you feel like can develop and learn quickly, that you can plug in and play like probably before they're ready, honestly, like at this level now with how it's gone. But the best thing we can do to really combat that is to try to do a better job at the high school level, bringing in good kids and building depth within our program. So when we do lose a few of those kids, we have some pieces in behind it that we feel good about.
I'm wondering if that you can just do like what UVU basketball. We've spoken to their coach Todd Phillips several times over the years. There's a kid like the kid Welling who played at corner. I think he went to Irvine, and then he moves up to UVU, and he plays well. I always thought he was under-recruited. I saw him play a ton in high school. But so then he goes on to what? I think it was Clemson. And Todd Phillips just rolls with it. He's like, okay, that's the way of the world now. So rather than sit here and whine about it, we understand that's probably going to happen. So we're going to embrace it, and we're going to go out and get the best kids that we can get. We'd love for them to stay, but if they don't, then we just replace them with the best kids we can get. And the machine just keeps rolling, and it becomes like an assembly line. And they've had some really good seasons here of late. I'm wondering if you might end up taking that approach. If a kid leaves, as you just said, $300,000 or $400,000 for a depth piece, so be it. We'll just go get some other kids that are just as good, and we'll develop them. If they stay, great. If not, we'll replace them.
100%. You really have to embrace it at this level, because it's a reality. You're not you're gonna turn around in December and you're not keeping all your kids for sure. And that's just reality of what it is. And it's just like you said, some of these other coaches have done a great job of understanding that and working around it. If you understand that and that's a reality, you can do some things within your program to try to help put you in a situation where it's not going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you either way, but it's not going to be as bad of a blow to you. And then just trying to find other players too once that does happen.
It seems like so much of football has gone to measurables, right? There's a lot of NFL draft talk now, and they're criticizing guys for having short arms, and you're like, okay, maybe you didn't give up a sack for a year and a half. I mean, at some point, what does it matter, right? But I wonder for the high school kids who, and they want to play at Utah or BYU, if you're going to get hurt on the back end, Eric, why not get helped on the front end? I mean, the coaches at Utah, the coaches at BYU, now the coaches at Michigan. Can you just walk out of the Utah high schools and just say, they think you're an inch too short, they think your arm is 2 inches short, like, come to Weber State, we will get you better, and when you don't give up a sack, they're going to notice. It goes back to the point Dave said. He's like, it's not hard to see when one kid's shoving another kid all over the field. You want him. And I wonder if that can give you an edge on the front end, even though like PK says, it's going to hurt you later on. Yeah,
and that's really we've even encouraged some of the kids we took out of the portal this year. We even said hey, your best option is probably to come here for a year and play at a high level, and then we may be losing you next year, but you've improved your stock, and teams have for whatever reason, like you said, it's all measurable stuff, have decided to pass on you. But now because you played and had a great season in a really good FCS conference, you've boosted that, and you're getting what you want. Anyway, it's just a year later, but you've also got a lot of experience. I mean, being here and playing in a year in a great conference is going to definitely help that player and put themselves in a good position down the road. And I think embracing that side, just like you said, is really, really important to what we're doing. You guys are pretty smart. You guys have a lot of this stuff down. You guys are on your game.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a long, long time, I guess.
Well, you're on your game too, because the answer you gave
feeding
was
you
just a
guys
lot like the
information?
answer Bronco gave. That was very
Oh, really?
similar to what Bronco said. And he's at a slightly different spot in the food chain, but unless you're at the very top or the very bottom, the issues are the same.
Yeah, they really are. And just because it's going to keep going up unless you're really at the top end of it.
Yeah,
like probably Michigan is, and some of those two power conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten. You're going to always be playing with those rules, in my opinion. It doesn't matter where you're at along that food chain.
I read that you felt like the defense is ahead of the offense, which is not necessarily surprising at this point along the timeline. And, this summer they have opportunities to get better on their own, and then you'll reconvene for August to prepare for the season. But I also saw where you said that maybe a little concern on the front seven defensively. You want more physicality?
Yeah, and I think I love what we're doing from a schematic standpoint. I think our defensive coordinator, Coach Fowler, and our defensive staff have done a really, really good job in the spring. And they make things from a scheme standpoint really hard on you offensively. And I think if we can add some physicality pieces here in the late spring, heading into summer, that's just going to enhance and improve our defense to a level where I think we can be one of the top tier in the conference. So that's going to be something we'll focus on as we move here forward in the next month. I think we have the scheme piece and a good understanding of what our players and their assignments are defensively, and executing that scheme. Now, if we can just add some physical pieces a little bit more in key positions, I think that group's going to be really, really good.
Eric Kjar joining us, Weber State football coach. I'm curious because I know that all the coaches here know each other, and in many cases have coached together and have gone over film together. You were telling us earlier, sometimes you got to play offensive linemen before they're ready. So I'm wondering how much that informs a defensive coordinator. One of the things, aside from the physicality, the communication piece on the offensive line is important. So let's hit them with a few exotic blitzes, because all these Big Sky schools may have to play some guys a little early. And if they're not, if they're not communicating, if they're not passing guys off with twists and stunts and whatever exotic zone blitzes you come up with, maybe you get some big plays defensively, because they got the same they're dealing with the same problems you're dealing with.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Just the overall ability to develop and get guys that are really ready and have had a ton of experience, which we don't have on our offensive line. We have one kid that played a decent amount last year and started some games, but we're relatively young. So to counter that, or also game planning wise, I'm sure we're going to see in teams across the conference, and I know our staff will definitely dial some things up that can make it really difficult just in protection and protection rules from an offensive standpoint that are gonna make it hard on them. And we faced a lot of that this spring too, but that kind of stuff's going to help us. We saw some really things that are tough schematically throughout the spring, but seeing those things and being able to coach and teach your kids how to pick those up, how to pass that off. Like you said, communication's huge in that, and being able to get them doing that early, where we're seeing a ton of that early, is just going to help our kids. But, yeah, you're 100% right. I think you'll see that from an offensive line play part of it. Defensive's kind of attacking a little bit more, and then that's your job as an offensive coordinator, is trying to scheme things up and make those assignments a little bit easier on your guys as well, from a quarterback and a offensive line protection standpoint.
Well, I've heard stories probably going back 15, maybe even close to 20 years, of that Eric Kjar in the weight room at the high school level, and you were jacked, and you were impressing kids who are 14 and 15 years old. Whoop-de-doo. I want to know how you stack up with 20, 21-year-olds and those types, because it's a different climate for you now, big guy.
Yeah, I'm definitely, probably more like mid to low tier in the strengths category now. It's a humbling experience for sure from a strength standpoint, but I'm in there getting after it with them and try to push. And I I really love that opportunity to get in there with our athletes and be able to be involved with them and connect with them on a different level that I don't think I get to as often as a head coach, because you're a lot more busy and you don't get to spend as much time with your players. But that part's been great. But yeah, I've definitely taken an ego hit up here for sure, PK.
You out there running with the DBs and the
I
wide receivers?
cannot run anymore. My knees have gotten to a point where if I try to run, I can run that day, but I pay for it for 2 weeks after. I'm pretty stationary now, other than I like to lift with them and stuff. But age, I'm going the other way. I'm getting into a category where I'm lifting with stronger kids, but I'm aging. I hit 47 this year, and the strength numbers are coming down anyway. So it's bad in two ways.
It's only going to get worse, big guy. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. Well, we appreciate the time, and it's interesting to talk to you as you try to figure out how the pieces of the puzzle fit together at Weber State, Eric. Good luck. Enjoy what little downtime you get here before you get into camps, and then it's back into I assume you're running a full set of camps up there.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're excited. We got our 7-on-7 camp coming up, and then our Best of the West individual camps. So we're excited about those and excited to be able to evaluate some kids in the area too.
All right. Well, thanks for a few minutes. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again as the season gets closer.
Yeah, you guys have a good one. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
All right. There's Eric Kjar, Weber State football coach, and the Big Sky. Everything's changing, PK. Southern Utah Tech coming into the league. They've always had the rivalry with Idaho State. So a lot of people in the Big Sky in the same area looking for the same kind of players. Highly competitive in its own right.
Oh, big time, man. You can argue as far as competitiveness for talent and all this stuff and everything that goes involved in it. And I'm an old Big Sky guy. I went to NAU out of high school, so I go back to the Big Sky a long time and following a long time. And obviously I'm going to follow Weber State about 1,000 times more this year because of the personal connection. And it's going to be really intriguing. A guy who literally had a 90% winning percentage in high school or at the high school level. What does he do? And I know he brought up the recruiting thing. People thought he was recruiting. I've spoken to him about it, and he felt like, okay, kids come here and they're coming. And I can reel off 6-7 kids that moved in to play for him, and he always felt like, hey, I can take my guys who are in the boundary, and I'm not recruiting, and I could still win. And he did have it a couple years ago when the one Kasuga kid got injured. His Kasuga, backup quarterback who was in the area, they still won the friggin' state title. So he has a lot of confidence in his ability, and I'm so intrigued to see how it translates. I think, and I have a huge bias, I'll be the first to admit it, that I think it's going to translate well. But talking to guys like Riley Jensen who know about it, way more about it than I do, and current college coaches, because they know of the relationship, and I've spoken to them, they think it's going to work. Not just me. Who cares what I think? I'm getting information from guys who are in the profession and every single day.
Riley sounded so much like you when I talked to him. We called a high school football playoff game, and the Weber State News was breaking. I remember we were at Skyline High, and we had a few minutes before the game, and he looks at me and goes, and it was so like you. He goes, you know what Weber State would do if they were bold? They'd go get Eric Kjar. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm all about it. Do it. I think that'd be super interesting. I like stories. That's an awesome story. He goes, did it be bold? I hope they want to do it. I said, do you think they're going to? He goes, I don't know, but I really hope they want to do it. And they wanted to do it. So
they did.
Here we are.
There's a new energy there on the campus because they got a new basketball coach. I understand will come on tomorrow. And so it's funny they got new basketball and football in the same season.
Yep, and as we've seen, man, things can change really fast in this era. I mean, Eric was just documenting guys coming and going, and we, chuckle when kids play at 3 schools, but that's basically what he's talking about. There's somebody in the portal, and maybe there was a coaching change, or maybe they couldn't play, promises are broken, or whatever, and he's like, come here for a year, raise your stock. Who's to say where you could be a year from now, which that's straight into a 3-school plan right there.
Yeah.
But for that individual kid, for some kids it's an act of desperation, and for other kids it's a good path forward.
Right.
So it just depends on the player.
Yeah.
All right, DJ and PK, Mike Weir, Masters champ, getting ready for the Senior PGA Championship. He's here at 9 o'clock. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
Just a bunch of guys sitting around and talking sports. This is Scotty G and Friends.
Logan Cooley, 2 years ago, is about the time things really started to break that this organization was going to move from Phoenix to Salt Lake City. And now 2 years later, you're in the playoffs. Just what does that feeling feel like for you as a player, knowing that you're going to be playing postseason hockey?
It's awesome. I mean, I think as a little kid, you dream about eventually one day winning the Stanley Cup, and just the experience we're going to gain from being in the playoffs. You know, there's some guys that on our team, I'm one of them, that haven't even experienced playoff hockey. And, you know, you watch on TV, just the excitement in the buildings, how intense the hockey is. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be unbelievable. And I'm sure the fans are going to have the Delta Center rocking. And we can't honestly wait to, get started once playoffs start. It's going to be the most fun hockey that, I think I'm going to be a part of.
Catch Scotty G and Friends weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Who wants tickets? It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. Let's give them away right now. We got tickets to see Brit Floyd. That's the Pink Floyd tribute band. They're going to be at the Maverick Center June 6th. Caller 12 right now. 801-575-ZONE. 801-575-ZONE wins a pair of tickets to see Brit Floyd, the tribute band. You do a lot of tribute bands through the years, PK, or you stay away from those?
Like not paying to go see it, but there's Hennessy's in Torrance. We would go.
Lunch
there.
Overlooking the beach with a little music, huh?
Well, it would be like after softball.
Okay.
And like on a Friday, Saturday night, Thursday night type of thing, And so over in the corner, they got a little local band that's playing cover tunes, basically. And so I would do that. I don't think I'm trying to think if I've ever gone to something where I've paid, like a Sand Hollow. They have our email, so we get a lot of we get all their stuff that they send out, right? Because they have it, and then that's the way they do it. And they have a little natural amphitheater over there. I don't know if you've been over there. And they have these shows, you remember the band Bread, by the name of Bread? Soft rock, super soft rock. Yeah. Well, they had a cover band, and I didn't see them, and I didn't really listen to Bread, but it caught my eye because I thought it was funny. So they come up with cover band names, and their name was Toast. For some reason, that just made me laugh because obviously it's a takeoff of bread. It's a specific type of bread that you're going to toast, throw it in the toaster, and away you go. So that made me laugh. But a lot of those times, they're really good. And, I've discovered that there's some serious talent out there. I was just talking about it with my wife, a guy that we knew in California. Guy was big time, but he could never get a break.
Yeah.
And so he had to go to in the hospital administration, but he would sing and act, and he just had a big-time talent, which, for that stuff, I got zero. And then I knew another guy, I haven't kept up with him, but he was trying to make it in the comedy world, right? Yep. And I went to, a couple of his local things, and, it was goofy funny, which I sort of like goofy funny in that way. Like the old comedy show, TV show Cheers. I consider that goofy funny, lighthearted, stupid stuff. And, that's what I enjoy. And so he would do that. And he had a bunch of props like Carrot Top. He'd pull stuff out and make jokes about it, and it would be funny. And he would write songs that were funny in that way. And so I'm over, it's in my younger days, right? And I'm working for the Daily Breeze, and I'm wondering, where's this going to take me? Mm-hmm. And I was talking to him about it, and, oh, man, I want to do this and this, and I'm waiting for my break to be able to go from there. And he told me, he said, well, basically he got tired of me complaining, and what he said was, the good thing about you is this is your full-time job. I want to break into comedy, and I do some shows here and there, but it's not my full-time job.
Right.
You're already in. And he gave me a little pep talk. He said, just stick with it. Keep working, and things will break. And I remember this conversation, and we're going back, obviously, many years now, and that conversation stuck with me that, hey, I have a foot in the door. I'm in the business. And a lot of guys would trade places with me right now because I do have a foot in the door. Keep staying it. Don't give up. You're working crummy hours. You're doing sometimes crummy assignments, but stay with it, and things will break your way. And he was saying, I got to find a way to get in, and you're already in. Now, I've lost contact with him. I don't know what happened to him. He didn't go on the Tonight Show. I can tell you that. I would have heard that. But I was in. And I relate that and I'm older now, obviously, and I try to impart that upon guys who ask me, guys being general neutral, about being in the business, and you show up and work as hard as you can in that very job that you have, and things can break your way. Maybe they don't, but I believe they will. And I translate in that to sports. You know, we saw this with a bunch of young guys with the Jazz, and in a kind of a different way, almost like a perverse way, it was fun to watch these kids who came out of nowhere with these 10-day contracts, and all of a sudden they're getting 38 minutes a game, which never would have happened. And that's kind of cool because I can relate to those types of guys. And it'll be interesting to see because these guys put stuff and it was a lower level NBA level. We get that. But it was still in the NBA, and they put stuff on tape. And I would think that, and Will Hardy constantly praised these kids, and they seem like they're earnest and they're working. I'm wondering, where it's going to go. And there's several of these guys. We joke about some of their names, but to see, will these guys be able to stick? Well, who cares if from their perspective, if it's not here, so what? If they can stick in the NBA and be on rosters, that would be great. And those guys are toiling in obscurity, and all of a sudden the bright lights are on them, and several of them put up pretty good stats, whether it's legit, probably not to the level that the stats would reflect, but maybe there's something there. And whether they stick here or not, we'll see. It'll be fun to follow if any of these kids 2-3 years from now are still playing in the league.
Yeah. And those stories were all over the place. Now, he wasn't a 10-day guy. He was in the Memphis deal. But Kjar, I mean, he played college basketball at Purdue Fort Wayne. I don't know what percentage of our audience, but it's got to be around 1 or 2, could name the nickname and the league they play in, right?
Well, the nickname is the Lion King.
That's his nickname.
Oh.
It's not the school's nickname. But you go wherever you can to play, and, if you play in a 2,000 or 3,000 seat gym or whatever, the NBA will find you if you can play, and he's 30 and he's still in the NBA. So,
yeah,
those stories are out there.
I would think he has a good chance to stick because it seemed like Will Hardy was, that word?
Impressed?
Beyond impressed. It's a fancy word that I don't know. I was going to say like effervescent in his praise.
Ooh, effervescent.
It seemed like he praised him a little bit more than the other guys who were in the similar box, so to speak, of where they were, and his professionalism and putting your head down and go to work. It reminds me now, I most likely would be stunned if he achieved that, but it reminds me of what Jerry Sloan and Phil Johnson and Kevin O'Connor were talking about with Paul Millsap early on.
Right.
Paul Millsap was not only a second-round pick, he was a late second-round pick. And all he was interested in was coming to work to do that very thing, which was work. And when you look back, relative to his skill and the fact that he was undersized, Paul Millsap had as good a career as anybody when you look at what he had to work with and how, if you're going to look at, name me athletes, man, woman, who got the most out of their ability. Probably Paul Millsap's name isn't going to come on everybody's list, but he's going to come on my list because we watched him.
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah. And it was fun to see that kid work with nothing else in mind.
But it's a good thing that he had that approach and he had that attitude because he just barely made the team.
Yeah.
Now, once he's there, he plays his way and he's got this huge role. But the decision on the cuts at the end of that year were really close, and Jerry finally leaned his way at the end. And we can have Richard Smith on sometime, and he can tell the story. But Smitty was like, well, it was a close call. And I forget who the other player was. But they were both performing, and there's only so many roster spots. It's just like it's a numbers game. And finally, they're just like, there's just something about him. And so if he's at 85% instead of 100%, maybe he doesn't win that close call, But
right.
He was at 100%. He never said a word. I remember asking a teammate, I can't remember which player said it. He doesn't really talk much around us. And, what's he like? And the guy shrugs. I don't know. He didn't talk much around us either.
Good.
Hey, but if that's the focus it took to make it, and if it's that close a call, good thing he had it.
Absolutely. And we saw that with Brian Russell, too.
He was
Russell
asked
was on the
to
team, do what he needed to do, and he did it
for a while.
Yeah.
And when he got his chance, it was like 3 or 4 possessions in a playoff game, and all of a sudden the starting lineup changed. He went out and won a matchup one quarter, and they made the move.
Right, and he was a starter on the finals team, obviously, and I had the opportunity to do a big feature in A1, the front page, not the front page of the sports, but the front page of the paper, and got to know a little bit of his background. And it wasn't an easy situation for him, but he persevered through so much. And what the stories that I was told about what he had to endure, and he did. And that was something that always I admired him for doing. Once I got it at the ground level of his story and spoke to multiple people, including a couple of high school teachers, that was one of the wildest stories that I had ever done in my work, 23 years in newspapers. And the Tribune, this was during the finals when, we couldn't print enough stuff about the Jazz.
Right.
And you guys couldn't broadcast enough stuff about the Jazz, right?
The market was consuming every shred of information possible.
And so they tell me, go down to L.A., and do a story on Brian Russell. What do you want me to do? I don't figure it out. And they're, you're an L.A. guy. Yeah, he lived 2 hours away. You're an L.A. guy. Go do it.
I love that logic. You're an L.A. guy. Have you been to L.A.?
Yeah. And I was the only L.A. guy on the staff. And so, literally no idea what I'm going to do. And I fly into Ontario because it's way closer than where I live. Yeah. I wouldn't fly into LAX with no idea. And go to this high school. And within an hour later, I've got a couple of high school women teachers sobbing, crying, because they're telling me all the stuff that Brian Russell had been through and all the stuff that they helped him through. And the health scare that the one woman, where he ended up spending a lot of time at her house with their family, and how she's just and I'm blown away sitting there. It's like, my gosh, I struck gold. And then I come back. I was down there and I had to cover some other stuff. I was gone for a week. I come back and I go to the practice, or one of their morning practices, and I say to him, can I talk to you? And he just kind of blows me off. And then as he's leaving, I said, well, I just spent 2-3 days at the house. So I forget the woman's name, Kim Williams or something. And he stops in his tracks, just stops. And he says, somebody from media relations will call you, and I want you to come over to my house later today. Just boom. I said the magic name. He literally stopped in his tracks because he knew I was serious. And that's what happened. And it would end up being a great story.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Mike Weir joins us, Masters champ. He'll be here at the top of the hour. Stay with us.
This is JJ and Alex. I got this.
Travis Yost, our guest. He covers the NHL for TSN.
For the Mammoth, I think they're the 4th best team in the West. I think that they would be a likely favorite against Anaheim. They could be or should be a favorite in a series against Vegas. If the Mammoth close the season as we expect, by goal differential, this is the best team that has ever been on the ice for either the Utah or Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes franchise by goal differential this season right here, right now. This team absolutely should not be thinking we made it to the playoffs. What an accomplishment. At this point, considering how good the Mammoth have been, and I mean that, they really should be thinking, how do we go in and win a round in the playoffs? And I think if you've got Anaheim on the ice, even if you're the road team in that series, that's a matchup the Mammoth should want, and it's one they should win.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Scotty G tomorrow from noon to 3 at RGS Exteriors, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. PK, we talked about this back in the 7 o'clock hour. West High has a quarterback who is very well thought of, and he was going to Illinois. And then earlier this week he announced, well, I'm not going to Illinois. And it turns out yesterday he said, I'm going to Michigan to play for Kyle Whittingham, which brings up the question, how big a problem is this going to be for the locals? Adam Schefter posting, it's the first notable quarterback commitment of the Kyle Whittingham era, four-star Kamden Lopati pledging for the 2027 season. 6'3", 220, he can run. He creates all kinds of highlights. He's all over the place. Poor high school lineman trying to chase him down. Good luck with that. But how much damage is Kyle going to do taking local players? I feel like this door has already been opened. I mean, we can all list players who've gone to Alabama and Ohio State and USC, UCLA, Stanford, and Oregon, just on down the line. So it's already happening. Now, Kyle, given his rep and his name, that could accelerate it. Lopati is going to a school that, has got a quarterback going into a sophomore year, and the way quarterbacks transfer, I hesitate to say it's over because some of these kids who've taken off, we've seen them come back, right? We've seen kids leave Oregon and Washington and come back to BYU and play well. So it's not necessarily over, but it does seem in an era when college football is really focused on recruiting in Utah because these schools have won with so many Utah kids on their roster. This just accelerates a trend they already don't like.
Well, I think it's a little different, too. We're not talking about linemen or what have you. We're talking about quarterbacks, and they're a premium. Good quarterbacks do not grow on trees. Great quarterbacks, they don't. And if this kid is a great quarterback, that would impact BYU, Utah State. I mean, how many great quarterbacks have come out of this state and gone elsewhere? Right now we got Maddox Madsen over there at Boise.
Yeah.
So what you can have, and I even think it's between the schools, I think Utah took a lot of grief that Zach Wilson didn't go there. Right?
Yes.
And then it comes out that, well, they recruited a quarterback and they didn't want to recruit another one, maybe told the kid that was an issue. And so, I only want you to recruit one. And then the kid comes and he doesn't make it. And Zach Wilson's over there. Forget about his pro career. He did very well at the BYU level. And, when Cam Rising went down, you were playing a walk-on. And maybe that wouldn't have happened. It wasn't devastating to the program, but, you did have some not up to par seasons for Utah, and maybe that could have been different as far as that goes. So I have to look at it. Yeah, all those places have come in and recruited these kids, but have they recruited quarterbacks?
This is one of the better quarterback classes, and partly it's, Utah's got a freshman, well, now a sophomore up there who played a little bit, and obviously BYU's got a guy who played a lot. But there's 4 or 5 good quarterbacks in this class, and they are all committed out of state. You mentioned Corner Canyon because we had on Eric Kerr. He used to be head coach there, and he's now at Weber State. Mm-hmm. And Kasuga's going to Texas A&M. And trying to think where Bessinger Davis is going to Iowa. Keneal Sweetwine at Skyridge is committed to Colorado. So it's just like one kid after another. Oh, this kid at Orem. Where's he going, Yak?
Caden Kawa was going to Alabama. But Sweetwine's already at Colorado going through spring ball with Isaac Wilson.
Yeah. So, like 5 quarterbacks and, yeah. Now, this is the 2026. Now we're talking 2027 with Lopati. But, the high-profile kids. But, I mean, you've been the king of saying it doesn't matter who you don't have. It matters who you do have. So if you got a good quarterback, and quarterbacks don't really want to sit, and if they do end up sitting, then they end up transferring anyway. So who's to say any one of these kids doesn't bounce back to either one of these schools eventually?
Yeah, and I'm concerned about Kyle picking off a few more kids.
It's more competition, right? There's already a trend established, and it's more competition.
Right.
DJ and PK coming up next. Mike Weir, the Masters champ, now playing on the Senior Tour, the Champions Tour, Senior PGA Championship coming up. Stay with us. Mike Weir next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back in on this Wednesday morning. We're going to talk a little golf with our local golf major winner. You know who that is? That is Mike Weir, right? I think he lives over in they used to call him Draper, but I think he's moved. Well, in fact, I know he's moved. I know where he lives, over there in the Sandy area. And this week is the Senior Men's Championship, coming 1 week, obviously, after the majors, the Masters. And that was thrilling to see Rory McIlroy do his thing. And this field is absolutely loaded. That's what's cool about golf. Name me a sport that, what would be, just connects. Maybe connects is the best word, right? Connects best with the past and the future and the present. So everything all together there, right? The past, I mean, they really honor it. You know, the ceremonial tee shots that the guys go and tee off of Jack Nicklaus's. Is Jack, when you think of Jack Nicklaus, who does he compare to in other sports? Does Jack Nicklaus compare to Michael Jordan? Wilt Chamberlain? Who's the greatest, what we consider old-time basketball player? Can we go, it's too early to go, certainly somebody like a Kobe Bryant. LeBron's still playing, so he wouldn't count. I'm even hesitant to go Jordan, even though it's been 30 years now, literally coming up on it, since he won his last title for the Bulls. That seems sort of funky right there. It seems like I can't go there. That's too recent. But Jack Nicklaus, you know, and it's 40, what is it, 40, he won 86. 86 was his last Masters. Is that 40 years?
Yeah, it's 40-year anniversary this year.
40-year anniversary. And then he highlighted that and how he kind of came up, if you were like a horse race, when they were coming down the stretch, he was not in the lead. I watched some of that before the actual coverage began on Sunday, just to refresh my memory. And so he's a legendary name, right? And there he is hitting balls. That would be like, I don't know, is Wilt Chamberlain, does that resonate? I'm trying to think of, you know, like a star in the 60s.
Wilt will resonate because we still hear often about the 100-point game and just how dominant he was. Yeah. The only one I can think of kind of from that era would be Bill Russell.
Bill Russell?
Now they have his number retired across the league now, the number 6. So
you got those types of guys, and Jack Nicklaus comes out and hits the ceremonial tee shot, as does Gary Player. Now between them, what have they got? 18 and 9. What's that? 27 majors? Wow. So maybe that is like Russell and Chamberlain going up there and doing the ceremonial free throw or I don't know, first tip. They don't have obviously in baseball they have the first pitch, but they do a great job. And today we'll see in the big leagues that everybody will wear 42, right? Because it is the recognition of Jackie Robinson.
Jackie Robinson day today.
And so they make a big deal about that, obviously, as they should. I've got no problem with that. And his number is retired everywhere, and he gets an entire day. Now, phenomenal ball player. I often think, you go look and read what Jackie Robinson accomplished as an athlete. Now, obviously, the social work and the social advancement is off the charts, right? It does seem so bizarre that there was a time when the color of your skin would prevent you from playing big league ball. And I've talked about this with my father growing up in East Orange, New Jersey, and right next door, literally a couple miles away, was Newark. And they had the Negro League there. The Newark Eagles were his favorite team, and he used to talk to me about that. And I had an opportunity to go to the Negro Baseball Hall of Fame in Kansas City when I was in there once for work, I think it was. But anyway, I went through there, and that was kind of cool because he had told me about that. And so recognizing Jackie Robinson, well, you look at this field that we're going to see with the Senior Open or the Senior Championship. Well, you got your foreign guys, right? So you got guys like Goosen, Olafable, Longer, Ernie Els. We've all heard of those guys, right? Big time. And then you got your stateside guys that are there. Big names, Sabatini. I just spoke about Mike Weir. KJ Choi obviously is of Asian descent, but he lives in Dallas. Appleby, guys that I've followed my whole life. And it's sort of cool to see them continue because they can still play golf at a high level relative to the way we all play, right? Absolutely. And so that gives us something to watch. Also, this week is the Hilton Head one. And they view that
the
as
RBC Heritage,
the signature event. Now, I spent a week in Hilton Head, and they got the Sea Pines area, which was one of the most unique areas that I'd ever been to. And they have so many golf courses there. This one, where they play the RBC, it's a little out of my price range. It was up in the $400 or $500 cost that I'm not my wife plays, so that's going to be double. But when we were there, they were what do you call it? I guess maybe aerating the greens. Is that what you? Anyway, the course was closed, and so I wouldn't have got to play it. But we were riding bikes, and what I did is I rode on the cart path through each hole, and got a feel for that. Super, just an interesting course. The way it's laid out with the old homes right there, and so much. Foliage and trees and everything, and then the finishing holes there is on the water, if you've seen that. So we'll have that opportunity. And I guess we're having trouble connecting with Weir. But Weir is teeing off tomorrow on hole 10, and his playing partners are Vijay Singh and Vaughn Taylor. And I got a Vijay Singh story that cracks me up. Several years ago, when he was on the PGA Tour, he was playing in Las Vegas, and they play that tournament in October usually, right? And it's on the west side over there in Summerlin for those folks who know Vegas. And they've got a J.W. Marriott right there. BYU's football team used to stay there when they would go into Vegas, so I'd been there a couple of times. And I was staying there myself. I was going to Jimmy Buffett concert on Saturday. So we're down there in October, and he used to play at the MGM. He would do like the last couple of Saturdays. And right before he died, about 6 months before he died, I saw him in March. And it was his 35th show that he was playing at the MGM. So he was a regular. And the place would go nuts with the coconuts and all the parrot heads and stuff. So anyway, we're there for the weekend, right? And I get up early, as I often do. And I thought, I'll get in a workout before things get going on that Saturday. We're going to hang by the pool and have some fun and then go over to the MGM and enjoy the show. And who's in there but working out early in the morning is our guy, Vijay Singh. And he's got a personal trainer. And J.W. Marriott is a little bit better, obviously, than the regular Marriott workout rooms, right? It is more like a mini gym, I think you could say. And so I'm working out there. I walk in, and I see Vijay. And I'm a golf guy. I recognize him immediately, right? And it's him. He and his trainer are the only two besides myself. And every time I thought, well, maybe I'll just say hello to Vijay. I'm not going to bother him because he's right during his workout, right? But if I catch his eye, I'll say hello to him. And each time I would catch his eye, his trainer would get right in front. And he would shoot me a look that says, don't you get within 20 feet of this man. So then I thought at that point, I'm going to play a little game with him. So I'm going to try to get VJ's eye as I'm in between sets of the weights and the cardio that I'm doing and the stretching and push-ups and stuff. And plus what I wanted to do actually was get an idea of what his workout was, because obviously, and he was an older guy at the time, but he was still playing on the PGA Tour consistently, that he's going to do workouts that are tailored specifically for the movements that he has in golf. And so I want to see what it's about, right? And I would be looking, and it wasn't like I was just going to try to stalk him, or I was not under any circumstance going to start up a conversation with him, because I know that he's on a tight schedule. He's got to work out. He's probably got to get something to eat and do his stretching, get over to the range, whatever his tee off was, whatever time it was. And so I just thought that I would say hi, but I don't know if you've ever been around somebody who's giving you the cold shoulder or the proverbial evil eye in the stare, but his trainer was just looking at me like, and I know you know who he is, and stay away from him. So then what I thought I would do is I would just try to see what type of workouts with the medicine balls and the core work that he was doing, and maybe incorporate that into my game to try to help me when I play. And so I was able to do that and see some of the stuff that he was doing with the weights that were simulating golf swings or golf movements with the turn of the shoulders and the torso and the core and the stomach and the hips and all that stuff. So I did get that, but at no point was I going to get anywhere near my guy, Vijay Singh. That just was not going to happen. I did check into the hotel at the same time Brandt Snedeker was checking in. How about that? So I did give him the eye and say, hey, hello, because I knew what they were there for. And then they would put you on the rooms, and then you would see those guys that would stay at that hotel because it was right by the golf course. So that is the senior championship coming up, and we're still having the little bit of a, Masters hangover. And I saw where that Cam Young was he was teed up and paired up in the last group with Rory, right? And remember last year, DeChambeau said, well, Rory didn't say a word to me. And I was like, oh, well, do we have PGA and LIV? Is that the issue here? They can't talk because they're in separate things, and this is the only time they meet. Well, Cam Young said, we didn't say anything either. And I'm thinking, okay, this is business, man.
Well, if you remember when Tiger last won, Tony Finau was playing with him in that, and Tony said the first hole was like, tried to tug Tiger up, and Tiger was stone-faced, like, yeah, we're locked in here.
Right, and I don't have a problem with that, man, because golf, you're out there for 4 or 5 hours, and the pressure's enormous. You see it in the release of the emotion when they win, how much it meant, and you're probably playing actual physical movement outside of the walking, the actual hitting of the ball. It's probably, 5 minutes total? The whole day, 10 minutes maybe. And so you have to be so mentally attuned into what you're doing. And it goes back to when I spoke to Nick Faldo back in October, a couple of days after the Black Desert, and I'll be down there again this year. I'll be down next month for the women, the ESPN that's over there in Copper Rock. You've been here in Copper Rock doing a lot of advertising with us. I'm looking forward to that because those are next year, not next year's literally, but the next breed of stars that go from there like the Corn Ferry. And there's several women that played there in the past that are now on the LPGA Tour. So, you got that going. And when I spoke to Nick Faldo, he told me, man, you've got to be a 10 out of 10 mentally. You got to be a 10 out of 10. There's no exceptions. You cannot win unless you're a 10 out of 10. Can you imagine that? And just think of ourselves. There's so many what we call weekend golfers, average golfers, who play that don't have that concentration. We've all been there, right? It slips, and you think, oh, why did I do this? Why did I do that? I wasn't in tune to what I was doing. And so from that perspective, it's there. And then we also had the controversy. Well, Rory played in the Masters course, 2 or 3 weeks before?
Wouldn't you?
Well, so he lives in Jupiter, this is American House, right? And he flies up. What did it cost him? It said the fly up and back was like $60,000.
Yeah, and he made $4.5 million.
Yeah, right. I mean, his money is he's made millions already, and so he played there. The one thing I was in the car listening to his pre-tournament press conference, and they asked him about it, or maybe it was during, or maybe it was one of the days after he played. And they asked him, well, why didn't you play? He said, well, I don't like the 3 courses before. And my wife looks at me, ooh, you think he's going to take crap for that? And then sure enough, I sent her on Monday, I saw a tweet that somebody said, if you want to know why Rory isn't a good guy, this is one of the examples. And I have no idea if Rory's a good guy, bad guy, or what have you. I don't really care. I know that he's an excellent golfer, and I like to watch him play golf. What he does beyond that, I don't get into those guys' lives, and they can do whatever they want there. But in terms of how he treats people, I don't know. And I don't know that everybody really knows because you get a snapshot. I've dealt with many athletes who've been overwhelmingly great, and then you get guys that don't want to talk to you. Terry Porter. Remember Terry Porter played for the Blazers? So I'm down in, I think it was down, I told the story earlier when I was down for Brian Russell doing the story, and they had me stay, and I think it was the Lakers in Portland were playing. The winner would go on to the next series maybe. I can't remember the specific details. Maybe that wasn't it. Maybe it was another time when I was actually living there. And so we're at the Forum, the old fabulous Forum, which still exists, by the way. They just don't play NBA basketball there anymore. It's right next to where the Clippers play. And so we're waiting for the guys, and none other than a certain CEO of the Jazz comes out. And they've got 4 baskets, right? They got baskets on each end of the court, and then in the middle on each side, so you can shoot. And I'm with their, I probably was working down there at the time, and yeah, that's what it was. I was working down there, and it was the Lakers and the Bulls, or the Bulls, not the Lakers and the Bulls, the Lakers and the Trailblazers, and guys are waiting for Ainge, and then he would just go, and they'd come over, and then he'd go over to the next basket, and then we'd go over there. Then he'd go to the other basket. He wanted to get his shooting in, and he wasn't interested at that time. That doesn't mean he's a bad guy, but he wasn't interested in doing interviews. And then Terry Porter comes out, and he comes out, and he says, you guys want to talk to me? Yeah. He says, all right, let's go sit down. And we go up a few rows. He says, okay, here I am. Let's sit down, and I'll write your stories for you. Ask me any questions you want. And I can remember, I'm a young kid at the time, and thinking, oh my gosh, that's what I'm looking for. Terry Porter. And had the opportunity to interview Porter. And I thought, oh, Terry Porter must be a great guy. But it's just snapshots in life. And I've had several interactions with DA since then, and he's a fine person. That's not the point. But I don't know what Rory is. But he did say that he didn't like those courses, so he went to the Masters and played. And then it comes out where, what's that guy's name? Chambly?
Randall Chambly.
Yeah, he's kind of controversial because he'll say what's on his mind. And then he ripped people and said, well, wait a second. Anybody could do that. I guess you have access. If you are in the field, you can come and play as much as you want. So if Rory did that, and then he won and he talked about it, it'd be interesting to see next year how that plays out, what they're going to do as far as that goes. All right, that is your golf for today. The Senior PGA Championship leaderboard will be getting underway tomorrow. We'll be able to follow it as the tournament gets underway, and that's over there. What do you say, in Bradenton, Florida?
Yeah, Bradenton, Florida, Concession Golf Club.
Yes, and I make a lot of concessions when I play golf, that's for sure. All right, stay with us. Maybe we'll get up with Mike Weir another time. Coming up next, what you may have missed, stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Kyle Filipowski deserves a lot of credit. They're trying not to play him because he's been too good. So he's only playing 31 minutes, and he's scoring with an incredible efficiency, and he's actually playing tough.
4 straight games with over 20 points. He's been really, really good.
He's played tough enough that he can play big minutes on, not big minutes. Minutes
as
at
a big.
Yeah. On a contending team. And I wouldn't have told you that was true before the season. He might be 15 minutes a night 5. He might be a good enough 5 that you can wrong foot the other team.
15 minutes a night going into what will be year 3 now, and continue to play bigger. But yeah, I mean, he becomes a very valuable player.
If he can play a little bit at what was traditionally the 4, what is basically a wing, and be good enough defensively, then you've got yourself a stew going. You've got yourself a guy you can use.
Catch Jake and Ben weekdays from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Slacker Radio headlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. All right, we had NBA playoffs. I'm going to call them playoffs. I'm not going to call them play-ins. 2 exciting games. The Charlotte Hornets get a late layup from Ball, and then Bridges blocks. I forget who he blocked, but it was somebody right at the buzzer, and they win in O-freaking-T. Yeah, excitement abounds. Charlotte, how about that? Exciting times for them, 127 to 126. Decent overtime, 13-12, they outscore them. And then later in the evening, that other game came right down to the end. The Trailblazers go into Phoenix. Phoenix just squandering home court advantage, such as it is, and lose to the Blazers 114 to 110. So now the Blazers, they get the 7th pick, a spot, I should say, in the playoff. And way to go. Way for the Hornets. They celebrated wild. They dogpiled out on the floor. Now, I didn't see the game, man. You got to have Prime Video. You got Prime Video, Yuck?
I do. If you have an Amazon account, you have access to Prime Video.
Oh.
And let's just put it this way, Mrs. Hatch pretty much runs our house on Amazon.
What is on Prime Video? I mean, these games were on it last night.
Thursday Night Football's on Prime Video. The NBA's got that deal now where they're going to be broadcasting more and more games there. There's a number of original series that are on there. So it's becoming...
just like everything else.
It's becoming a force in the streaming world.
NBA playoff games, postseason then? You want to go play in?
This is part of that deal. Amazon paid a major chunk of that new media rights deal, and they're putting it on that platform.
And tonight we've got the Magic and the Sixers and the Warriors and the Clippers. And I assume that's on Prime Video also, right?
The two tonight? Yeah. All 4 of them are going to be Prime Video exclusives.
Do I want NBA playoffs on Prime Video?
Well, that's why we're seeing the NFL get sued, by the way, PK, here, because the DOJ is looking into the fact that the reports were that the NFL, if you want to watch every NFL game, you have to spend upwards of $1,000 to do that. If you want to have access to all the different streaming platforms, et cetera, that's on. This is the trend we're going towards, and it is not consumer friendly. Let's just be very blunt about it. You had to pay a lot of money on a lot of different places to watch your teams or the sport you love.
And I hate that. I hate that there's people that might get shut out, particularly the elderly who don't have the ability to get out of the house much, if at all, and they look forward to the games. They want to watch the games. Because it gives them something to do in the evening. And if they don't have access to it, and they can't afford it, that sucks. I don't know how else to say it. That would suck. So then we've got Friday, we've got the Hornets will play the winner of tonight's Magic-Sixers game, and then also after that, it would be Clippers-Warriors winner play the Suns. That would be the opportunity to have the 8th place spot and play the number 1 seed, right? Yeah, I think so. But is that going to be on Prime Video? Shouldn't that be on regular television? Am I off base on that?
No, you have a very valid point.
Friday's games also?
I need to double check on that.
Is the entire play-in Prime Video?
It wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to double check right now, though.
Yeah. Interesting, though, that the...
Friday, both are Prime Video games. So, and then obviously with the first round actually starting up on Saturday, you're going to hate this, PK. On Saturday, 11 a.m., 1:30 p.m., 4 p.m. The first 3 games of the day, all Prime Video.
Are they really?
Yep. The only one that's on network television is the evening game, which is the Rockets and the Lakers. That'll be 6:30 on ABC. Obviously, that's going to be having a lot of people interested in it. The good news is Saturday, though. Excuse me, not Saturday. Sunday, you got 2 ABC games and 2 NBC games on Sunday. So.
All right, so I looked at Raptors and Cavaliers, so I want to watch Donovan Mitchell. I got to get Prime Video because they're the 11 a.m. games Sunday, or Saturday, I should say, 11 a.m. Saturday. Oh, and if I want to watch my guy, Jokic, at 1:30 against the T-Wolves, watching Joe Ingles over there cheering, I got to have Prime Video?
Yep. Watch our guy Joe.
Yeah, he probably won't play. Wow. I can afford it. Let's not kid myself here. I'm not crying the blues for me. And I probably have Prime Video somewhere. I don't even know it because I don't pay attention to it.
Do you have an Amazon Prime account?
I don't, but somebody in the family probably does.
I was going to say, almost everybody, trust me, I'm telling you, Mrs. Hatch runs our entire life, feels like, ordering stuff off Amazon.
Well, I know that I bend down a couple times a week to pick up stuff on the porch.
Probably do then. You probably have access, PK. We can just get you that email address.
Well, now that I think about it, I do, because I watched Thursday Night Football.
Oh, yeah, you're good then. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. Brother. But I do feel bad for folks who don't have it. But what are you going to do? That's the way of the world. That's what we got cooking here. And our Mammoth, it's over, man. We don't have to worry about, we don't know who they're going to play, obviously, but who's it going to be in terms of the wild card position? Are they going to take the first wild card? Are they going to have the second wild card? Blah, blah, blah. But we don't have to worry about that anymore because our Mammoth won last night, didn't they? I was watching that game, I know.
5-3, yep.
That's probably why I wasn't so concerned about basketball and didn't even think to go check, come to think of it, because I was watching the Mammoth. What time they started around 6 o'clock, didn't they?
Mammoth were 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was watching that puck game, and they stumbled a little bit after they clinched the spot, but we're good to go now. And they take care of biz, go up to Winnipeg. They played Winnipeg, right? And beat them 5-3, although that game was here. And now they have clinched the spot. Schmaltz had a couple of goals. Cooley had one. Peterka had one. And I think Kerfoot had the other one, if I remember. And they win 5-3. So we're good to go. You don't have to worry about having to play Edmonton in the first round. That's good news. I sort of would. So they're going to play they're going to play the Pacific Division winner. Is that it?
Yeah. So they'll play Pacific Division champion. Vegas needs just 1 point to seal that up.
So it's most likely Vegas, right?
Most likely, but Edmonton still has a shot
Edmonton.
at it. Yeah.
I want Vegas to see if we can develop a rivalry.
Oh, absolutely. And I will also say this: the star power that Edmonton boasts with just their front line, McDavid and Draisaitl if he comes back. Yeah, I want to avoid that. So,
and that's fine. Let's see how long they can take it as far as that goes. It would be fun to see them play Vegas. Vegas just fired their coach, didn't they?
Yeah, Tortorella has taken over, and he's got them on a run here. The last I saw it was 6-0-1 since he took over.
And have you ever listened to some of his interactions?
Talking about Tortorella?
He's a feisty dude.
Oh, yeah.
There was one I saw, I was checking him out when they made the move a couple weeks back, and he's in the locker room talking to the guys. Tommy Lasorda would blush. He's a feisty dude. So we'll see. They got one more game to go. And do we have a time or a date anyway when the playoffs will start?
Saturday or Sunday. That's all we know currently. PK, talking about coaches being feisty, did you hear what happened last night with the Columbus Blue Jackets coach?
No.
Let's let you hear this. This is I finally found it on the internet, but so here you go. Here's what he had to say. So Columbus was in a playoff position late into the season, has fallen off. They went like 2-8-1 down the stretch to miss out on the playoffs, and it's Rick Brown. This is their head coach. This is what he had to say after the game last night when they lost to the Washington Capitals.
No. And all you got to do is look at the stat sheet. 3 hits, 23 giveaways. Like, I don't know if I'm back, but if I'm back, I'm changing this culture. These guys, they don't care. Losing is not important enough to them.
Maybe it's not working, but he ripped the team, said that essentially they have no heart.
Say that they have no heart? What else can be worse?
Not.
Because your skill level is all varied, but does your heart, your ability to play with heart, with passion, is that not something that you can control? Is that something you could make a conscious decision? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I mean, DJ made that conscious decision when he went up to Rice Eccles and said, yeah, I'm going to get into soccer because it's going to make me more popular. And remember that? Will you hear that?
Yeah, I was. Trust me, I was the one. I was the subject of the manifesto because you were gone.
Yeah, I was gone.
We were sitting in that old studio across the way, and when he's by himself, he looks at me like we're talking like just straight on the stare. Goes off on the manifesto, and I'm like, oh, this is going to.
You knew it?
Oh, yeah. I'm like, wow. Made a conscious decision then and there. Oh, okay, here we go.
And he slammed me that I wasn't there to interrupt him.
Yeah, PK's not here to interrupt me, so here we go.
Yeah,
I went up to Rice
That's why my motives were completely pure at all times.
And I saw the fan response. And I swore then and there.
I had to get in on it.
I needed to cash in.
And little did he know that I'm sitting at the airport. I don't know if I'm work trip or personal trip or whatever it is, and I'm listening. Thinking, oh my gosh.
I think you texted me and said, you better pull that.
Did I?
I think so.
Yeah, I was listening to it. So you can make a conscious decision to play with heart. There's no reason not to. And if your coach is blasting you, man, I would take that personal. But, and I don't have any problem with coaches saying it. Anytime they want to speak the truth as they see it, even if it's not viewed as politically correct, are they allowed to say it? Should they say it? Well, I think that, you can argue, behind closed doors, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes you got to get your message out there. And that sounded like it was a strong, strong message as far as that goes. Go listen to that and hear what you have to say. And frustration does boil over, man. These guys, high-pressured business. And it can mirror life, right? All sorts of pressure that's out there. And if you're not meeting your goals, I get it. So I also talk a little bit about basketball, NIL. They're saying that reports are that it's gone up 65%. Now, I can recall, I think it was when he got to Michigan, not while I was still at Utah. Maybe he had said it at Utah, but he also said it at Michigan, that Kyle Whittingham was speaking of, obviously, that NIL is going up 15 to 20%. Now and that's football, and you have more guys you got to pay, obviously. Basketball, fewer, and it was the rage on social media yesterday that it's gone up 65%, which means that if you obviously just do simple math, if you made $1 million, now you're making 1.65 in one season. Wow. Well, what kind of job are you going to be able to get unless you play professionally, play in the NBA or maybe overseas and making high money? You're not going to get it. And Rob Wright, Kentucky, BYU, thoughts being that, well, maybe BYU's back in the picture. And we asked, should BYU overpay? Is that what they want to do? They want to get involved in this arms race. And it was funny how for years the arms race used to be on facilities. You remember that? Oregon's building this.
Oh, yeah.
They got air-conditioned individual lockers.
Clemson had the big slide in their facility.
That's right, inside. Yeah.
Sleep pods. You remember the sleep pod thing that LSU put in?
Yeah. So, and that was the rage.
And then as soon as you couldn't spend money on individual players, PK, guess what happened?
Yeah. And now we don't talk about facilities much anymore. It's all about this other stuff here, and it's how much money. And, oh, man. But if you want to win at the highest level, you got to do it. I can't imagine, the idea of where it's going, where it's ending. Is going to be over $2 million for? And we're not talking about the stars. We're not talking about the DeBonces of the world. We're talking about the decent players. Should BYU overpay? Well, if they want to keep them, they're going to have to. They're going to have to up maybe what they originally had planned, and they got to go along those lines. And it's like, well, what are you going to do? It's sort of like these max contracts that they used to. Oh, they still give them out, obviously, but. If you want to keep your guy, and so then you give max contracts to guys, and then they turn out that they're not as good as you think they are. What do you do about that? Man, that's kind of crazy to think about as far as that goes, is what you want to do and how much you want to pay. And we'll see. BYU still needs some help in their roster. What, they've gotten 2 guys now? Is that all they've gotten? 2 transfers? Yeah, they've gotten 2, Chandler and that Betsy kid. Looks like, obviously Chandler. I expect him to have a real good impact. You have to remember when he goes to Kentucky, he hadn't played in 2 years. And then now he's going to be, 2-3 years removed from his mission. So whatever Colin Chandler can do, which I think is pretty good, we're going to probably see that with the Cougars. So he's stepping in right at the time that He's learned about the college game, know what it takes playing a Big 12, obviously playing in the SEC, similar level of competition. So that's a really good pickup for them because we saw and heard from our guy Kevin Young said the holy grail to him is shooting. All right, get people who can shoot, particularly from the three if you're open, and then also other four parts of the basketball floor. And we'll see if they get Rob Wright. I would take him, man. I think coming back, that would be an excellent addition to his team. All right, stay with us next. We'll get you, well, we already got you caught up on what you may have missed, what we were talking about. We'll get you some feedback. And then I think Jake Scott will, only in the way he can, impart just some phenomenal wisdom that he's able to do. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. College basketball, saying NIL has gone up 65%. Is this nuts? Tony says absurd. The NCAA is going to have to create a salary cap of sorts. NIL, as constituted, is unsustainable. Jake Scott, who you'll hear in a few minutes with Ben Anderson, he spent most of his teenage and young adult life as living a life that was unsustainable. And you were...
You know, that's pretty true.
I remember you were our producer.
Yeah. Oh, that was a rough 2 years.
What year did you produce us? Or you 2 years?
Oh, man. It was 2 years. What would that have to have been like? You know what? It was definitely 04 because I was with you guys when the Utes did their run. And Witt, I was producing when you reported whether Witt was going to BYU or Utah.
Okay.
Which was a fun thing to witness up front from a journalistic perspective.
Yeah.
Because if people don't know that story. So it must have been, anyway, 04, 05. That must have been my 2 years.
So
but if you don't...
20-plus years ago.
If you don't know that story or whatever, because it's so funny, PK, that this all seems like new news to me, but it was like 20-whatever years ago. You know, how many people know? Witt, because Urban was bouncing and going to Florida, and BYU decided to part ways with Sir Gary Croton, I believe. And... at the beginning of the night, didn't the Des News ran with Witt was going to BYU.
About 8 o'clock, yeah.
About 8 o'clock. You were more patient and ended up reporting that he was staying at Utah. And because papers were the way they were at the time, both the Des News and the Salt Lake Tribune had competing front pages the next day.
In defense... I think Dick Harmon had that when he wrote that. It was true.
It was true, right? Because he went back and forth.
Yeah. Oh, he did. Yeah, I talked to him multiple times that night.
Yeah,
on the telephone, and to the point where probably 6, 7 o'clock, I'm on the phone with him. He says, "What do you think I should do?" And I thought, "Ooh, do I really want to weigh in on this?"
No, is the answer.
Well, I think you should do whatever you want. But then I thought about it, and I thought his heart is at Utah. And I called him back, and I said, I didn't tell him what to do, but I said, I think your heart's with Utah. From what I get, because I told him in that year, there was BYU. That was the third of their 3 consecutive losing seasons, if I remember, and the BYU administration had told me that, well, we're going to replace him. And like in September, I knew that was going to be. And there was a game they played Vegas, and they lost to Vegas. And they set a record. They threw the ball like 67 times.
Oh, I was at that game.
And Curtis Brown was averaging 13 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And one of the coaches went up to Curtis Brown's father and apologized to him after the game for not giving him the ball more. And so that was the next day. That was like a Friday night. On Saturday, I saw Kyle and I told him, I said, they're gonna offer you this job. I said, I don't know what's gonna happen with Urban, but you're gonna have Utah. I mean, you're gonna have BYU in your back pocket. So you need to decide whether you want that. It was like 9 o'clock the next morning. I talked to him. And I said, no, this is going to happen here. They're going to offer you the job because Andy Reid ain't coming. Let's forget about that, right? And so then with that in mind, he obviously he ends up getting both jobs. All right, Doc, what do you got?
So we got an open mic from our good friend Dazed and Confused, and let's just put it this way, PK, he's trying to help you out a little bit.
Okay.
Here you go.
Hey, PK, you're the best. You rock without DJ. You guys are a great team, but you're just fine without him. But he does have a cardinal rule, and you probably do too, but you just broke it by doing math on the air. A 15% increase of $1 million is not $1.65 million. You should be able to do that in your head, bro. But that's why we don't do math on the air now, isn't it? That's why we don't.
Did I say 15?
There's nothing to be embarrassed about. I thought 7 plus 8 was 16 until I was 28 years old. Have a nice day.
No, I said 65. Did I say slip and say 15?
I have to go back and listen to it, but he was trying to help you out there.
What I know, it was the whole point.
It's 65%.
15 wouldn't be startling because we were told.
I remember. You said 15% in football.
Football.
Which would be 1.15.
Yeah.
65% in basketball, 1.65. So that's probably the confusion.
His point still stands. You do math on the air, you're going to look.
You're setting yourself up.
But I remember I said with that, I said, let's go $1 million so we could use it round numbers. And then 65% is easy to figure out 1.65.
Apparently it's not.
Well, he got my facts
Facts?
misconstrued.
F-A-X? Oh.
He got him misconstrued. Even though the word is misconstrued. I'm having fun here. They're trying to,
I think I was producing your show when you had that Steve Cleveland moment.
Oh, come on.
Great success at home.
He had 4 more kids afterwards, so it was both.
Mm-hmm.
All right. DJ and I will be back tomorrow on Thursday. Ben Anderson will be joining Jake Scott right after the break, so stay
Wednesday
with us right
too.
here.
Yeah.
On 97, on Wednesday too, but I'm talking about tomorrow because DJ missed the last hour. Everything's fine with him. He'll be back tomorrow, and away we go. You too. And I hope you have a lousy show, and it'll be right on the other side of the break.
Wow.
Stay with us, 97.5,
Wow.
or at least your portion of the show. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.